Welcome back to Travolting Presents Easy Riders. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore.
Covering Alien Resurrection. Enjoy the episode.
This is the final report of the podcast, Travolting. First host reporting. The other members of the crew, Stuart, Mark, Brian, Becca, are dead. Podcast and recorder destroyed. I should reach Spotify in about 3 weeks. With a little luck, the network will pick me up. This is Jeff, last survivor of Travolting, signing off. That's right, folks. We're talking about Alien.
Alien.
And Stuart, before we talk about Alien, I have to wish a happy Easter to you.
And a happy Easter to you, Jeff.
Because that's right, folks. We're talking about the resurrection today. We're talking about
Alien Resurrection.
But we're not talking about the guy who went in the cave for 3 days, came out on the other side. We're talking about the person who went into the molten liquid for 200 years and was cloned 7 times unsuccessfully. Because that's right. We're talking about Alien Resurrection.
Alien Resurrection.
That's right. On this most holy of holy days, we're talking about, God, how do I say this guy's name? Jean-Pierre Jeunet's 1997 science fiction action horror film.
Didn't
Alien
Jeunet?
Folks, thanks for listening to this episode, Travolting. I hope you'll enjoy next week's episode on Celebrity. Please remember to rate, review. No. But no, we're talking about the 4th Alien movie today.
The 4th Alien movie.
Yes, the 4th of 6 to 8 Alien movies, depending on if you count Alien versus Predator.
We simply have to, obviously, like, if we're going to cover an Alien movie, we have to talk about, the Alien franchise as
We're going to talk about Alien in a big way today, I'm sure.
Yeah, a big way. Yeah,
yes.
Bigly.
The bigliest way.
The biggest franchise.
The bigliest way.
The biggest franchise.
Yeah. They're saying it's a huge franchise.
One of the biggest. No. Ridley Scott.
No,
James Cameron.
If you guys want to hear those impressions, tune in next week.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about. But no, Winona is in this movie. That's pretty crazy, right? That's kind of weird.
It's so weird thinking that, like, just last week, we had just finished talking about, like, the Crucible. And thank you, folks, for listening to that episode. I apologize in advance for the shoddy recording work on that one.
It's all good. It's listenable.
But, well, we'll see. The comments have yet to come in yet. But, yeah, Winona Ryder, who's coming
off the Crucible.
Coming off of the Crucible, coming off of boys. But, like, Little Women... Age of Innocence, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mermaids, Scissorhands. Like, I mean, I'm skipping a lot of the in-betweens, but I think we can because a lot of the in-betweens don't really matter to her career.
This movie is extremely interesting for Winona's career because it's a fulcrum point, first and foremost, but also it's basically the only time she does a movie like this.
Yeah.
She never really, I mean, she's in Star Trek, but, like, she's not really playing, a major role in Star Trek.
Right.
But this is like the one time that she tries to make a break into
like big
kind
franchise.
of like big franchise stuff.
Blockbuster stuff.
And you could technically count Stranger Things, I guess, if you want to. But
much later in her career.
It's kind of the failure of this movie that really puts that nail in the coffin of the Winona we were talking about last week with the Crucible.
Yeah.
And forces her to readjust her career again.
Right.
I also just want to say we worked really hard to get to recording this episode on Easter, and I just want the listeners at home to appreciate how much work we put in.
We put
to making sure we could record Alien Resurrection on Easter.
A lot of scheduling work. We had a few celebrities that wanted to be on Alien Resurrection, but they were only available on different days.
Sigourney actually agreed to come on,
but she agreed to come on Saturday.
Yeah,
and we said, Miss Weaver.
She said, "I can do Good Friday,"
and we said, like, no, like we made a promise to do this on Sunday. She says, "I'm busy Sunday," and I'm like, "Well, then go fuck yourself." We're doing this on Sunday.
And it is funny because I actually have been seeing some people online bring this movie up this weekend.
No shit.
Kind of just because it is like called Resurrection.
I guess so. Has it been like in the memes?
Yeah, just not even the memes, but just like some random people on Twitter just like bringing up like Alien Resurrection.
Yeah. But Jeff, like, I mean, before we go into the alien lore, should we talk about Winona? Or should we talk about the alien lore and then
No,
Winona?
we should talk about Winona first.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Which we already are.
Yes.
Yeah, as we just said, like this is the first time she's ever done anything akin to like a blockbuster franchise role. She's in the 4th installment of
Alien.
Well, okay, I guess we do kind of have to talk about Alien. Because like where is Alien in the public eye right now? Like I
have a really good segue point from Winona to Alien.
Okay.
I have a really good one built into my notes.
Okay. Heard.
Because as we all know, I've been reading this Winona biography. And this is basically kind of where it ends.
Really?
The book, I mean, it goes up to like through Girl Interrupted and Lost Souls.
Yeah.
Like the production of them.
Uh-huh.
But the original version of the book is written during like right after Alien Resurrection has come out. And it's like getting ready to premiere. Mm-hmm. It's actually the first chapter of the book is about Alien Resurrection, weirdly.
Yeah.
So where I was in the book on the Crucible, it basically just skips to Girl Interrupted. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's going on here? And then I was like, oh, shit, right, it's the first chapter. So I had to go back and read that for some Alien Resurrection juice.
Yeah.
But as we talked about in the Crucible, Winona's really interested in kind of changing her perception in movies at this point.
Yeah.
Because her exact quote is that she's been playing a lot of cute and adorable characters and is trying to get out of that. You know, she worked at it with, she got 2 Oscar nominations for Little Woman and Age of Innocence, but still her character in both those movies is kind of like the
cute,
innocent.
the cute innocent. Yeah.
Yes. And she plays very well, but she was looking to get into being like playing more darker, more dramatic, deeper roles that can kind of remove her from being perceived that way. Because that is who, like, she's cast as that type of character in movies.
Yeah.
That's her perception. And so she makes deliberate choices to try and shatter that perception.
And Tim Burton isn't calling her yet.
Yeah, Tim Burton's not calling her. But no, the big problem is that in her efforts to shatter that perception, she's going to succeed. But the thing that she goes into is also not going to succeed, leaving her in this very, like, rock and a hard place position.
The thing that she wants to transition to does not succeed.
Yeah, because the Crucible's a flop, like we talked about. Huge flop. She doesn't get any nomination. Movie loses a lot of money.
And it's mostly known for a bunch of middle schoolers watching it.
Yes.
In class.
So the Crucible doesn't work, and that's her playing like a very vile, villainous character.
Yeah.
And then this, which is she's getting into a goopy, splattery science fiction action horror franchise.
Yeah.
And this movie, which we'll talk about at the end, ultimately is not a success.
Far from it.
And they kind of like cut off any more Alien movies. And the Winona in this type of movie experiment is basically stopped right then and there.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, even off mic, and you said something like this is the first Alien movie with 2 actors on the poster.
Yes.
And that she's one of them.
Yes, it is a double-hander, Sigourney Winona. They were trying to use this to launch a new like wave of Alien movies. This was like a reboot in the franchise that was going to like, they were going to make a 5 and a 6, and Winona would become more prominent in them. It would be the Sigourney Winona like double-hander for the next few movies. Doesn't happen, as we all know. Instead, they make a Alien versus Predator and then reboot with a prequel. Whatever.
AVPR. Get your shit right, Jeff.
AVPR fucking sucks.
AVPR was at least better than AVP.
The worst movie ever made.
It's better than AVP.
No. Alien vs. Predator Requiem is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
No, it is. No,
AVP is fine.
But AVP is awful.
AVP is fine.
AVP is PG-13.
You can watch the splatter cut on the Blu-ray, in which the after the movie has already come out.
Yeah, they digitally
add CGI
added
blood. It's
CGI
really
blood.
funny.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's really funny.
It's awful. No,
that movie at least looks like a movie. AVP Requiem looks like
a TV movie.
It looks like a TV. It looks like a Nickelodeon movie.
I don't deny that whatsoever. Yeah. Everything you're saying, Jeff, is true. It's why AVPR is better. Because you will literally, I invite people to just shut your brain down and watch a predator-alien hybrid impregnate a pregnant woman with 50 alien eggs.
This is basically trying to compare, like a soft shit to a hard shit. Like, ultimately, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it is the same thing.
One of them just like was easier coming out.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
But some quotes from Winona at this period. She says she's looking for a new direction. But the one thing she refuses to do is TV. She says TV is lame. She refuses to do it.
TV is lame.
Yeah. She breaks the rule only once to do a voice on The Simpsons, in which she plays.
And she has a cameo on Friends.
Does she have a cameo on Friends?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget
That Winona does have a cameo in Friends.
And her announcement quote of this movie was saying, "I'm finally out of corsets and speeding into the next century."
This was her going into Alien Resurrection.
Yes, this is her going into Alien Resurrection.
What does she say going out of Alien Resurrection?
She doesn't really say much going out of Alien Resurrection. Besides, I'm in Girl Interrupted coming out in 2 years.
Oh, boy.
But she gets the script to this movie she's actually not allowed to read the script to the movie before being asked, will you be in the movie? Mm-hmm. They're like, well, let's read the script once you've said yes. Which is a weird thing that they do for big franchises in Hollywood is like, yeah, you can be in this movie, but you can't read the script until you've already said yes and signed your soul to us.
Yeah.
It's what happened to Ian McKellen and why he's not in Mission Impossible 2. Because he was offered the Anthony Hopkins role in Mission Impossible 2. They're like, you have to sign on without reading the script. He says no. And then because he says no to Mission Impossible, he gets cast in Lord of the Rings and X-Men. And aren't we all better for it?
Aren't we all? Sorry, I'm pulling up a Alien Resurrection Winona interview that I just wanted to... I've not watched this before.
She can't believe
this is great.
Back. She knows what's going to happen. She knows what we're up against. I never even thought I'd get a chance to meet her, let alone act with her, let alone be in an Alien movie with her. It's actually very moving.
This is the weirdest fucking interview cut ever.
This is the shit that they put on the DVDs.
Yeah.
Winona's such an amazing actress. She's so intuitive and so strong.
What I really liked about the character of Call was that she's not just a shoot-'em-up character at all. She's really humane.
She's really humane, Winona Ryder, 1997. Yeah. Are we ready to talk about how this movie kind of panned out?
No. I still have more context in the context corner.
Okay.
That we need
let's
to
go. Let's go.
Unsheath.
Come on. Giddy up.
We're like 10 minutes into the episode.
Yeah, I know. You showed up 10 minutes late.
I did show up 10 minutes late. This is correct. But she, like I said, she gets the script and she agrees to do it because basically she's a big Alien fan. She doesn't really like these she's not really a huge horror action person.
In terms of acting in them.
In terms of watching them.
Oh, really?
She's not like an action person.
But she likes the Alien
But
franchise.
she remembers being young and seeing Alien and seeing a female hero who could be a role model. And that was very powerful and effective to her.
Makes sense.
Says she watched Alien about 15 times, had the poster up in her bedroom until she moved out when she was 18.
Okay.
So Alien was a big touchstone for her.
Yeah.
Her brothers were also huge Alien heads, had all the merchandise.
That's one of the IMDb trivias that you can find easily, is that
Yes.
she did this role so she could brag to her brothers about being in an Alien movie.
And so she does this movie off of her own interest in the franchise, off of her brother's love of it, and also that she gets the chance to work with Sigourney Weaver in this movie, who's already agreed to come back at this point that Winona's asked.
And this is another thing you could find in a lot of trivial facts about it, is that they asked Winona to come back, or Sigourney to come back, and Sigourney's like, no.
I'm not doing another Alien.
I'm not doing another Alien
Then they
movie.
drove a dump truck of money to her house, and Sigourney's like, I'll do another Alien.
I'll do another Alien movie.
But Winona, after she agrees, is still very much I don't know why they asked me. I'm a very petite, small person. I'm not an action star. But the fact that they did ask her, she puts everything in. She puts a lot of eggs in this basket. Mm-hmm. She wants this movie to be a success so she can be established as, holding her own with Sigourney Weaver in this movie.
Yeah.
That's a big career shift she could have.
And potentially the next Ripley.
Yeah, then she could be the next Ripley.
Yeah.
And that's in the back of her mind. She puts a lot of stock in this movie.
Yeah.
When they're looking for directors, they originally are trying to hire Danny Boyle, who leaves because off of just a disagreement with the studio. He doesn't get that far into production.
Yeah.
But she and Sigourney are both locked in with the studio, screening new directors. Mm-hmm. Winona's one of the ones who really fights for Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who's a French filmmaker who had never made an American movie like this before.
Yeah.
He was mostly his biggest movie, which comes out after this, is Amelie. If you've ever seen Amelie or anything.
I've heard. I know it.
Yeah, if you've seen this poster.
Yeah.
Not really the type of guy you'd associate with an Alien movie, right?
Right, yeah.
He made Delicatessen and the City of Lost Children, which, is science fiction in a sense. Mm-hmm. But he's not really, there's not really anything that would directly associate with Alien. But Winona, kind of sees his movies. She loves French films. And is like, I want this guy to do the movie. I think he can bring a very French sensibility to it.
French sensibility.
And God, does he succeed at bringing a French sensibility to this movie, which we will talk about.
We will talk about, yes.
But all that being said, she goes into this movie with a lot of stock in it and a lot of excitement to be in it. She wants this to launch a new stage of her career. And we're going to go back in time now. I actually did have a really good segue point, and I breezed fucking through it. So we just are going to go back now. We're going to talk about Alien now. Yeah.
God damn it.
I was going to say she was a big fan of the Alien franchise. Let's talk about it. That was what I was going to do. But instead, I just went into the next note.
It's kind of like...
It's kind of fine.
It's a mid-game.
It's fine.
Mid-tier.
It's fine.
All right. Let's talk about the Alien franchise.
Yes. What Winona was so in love with.
Let's dial back the clock 18 years ago.
Yes.
That's how long ago the first Alien movie was.
No, let's dial it back 20 years ago.
20 years
May 25th, 1977. Mm-hmm. A little movie comes out called Star Wars. Literally busts the block.
Yeah.
Biggest movie of all time.
Yeah.
Every studio is scrambling. What science fiction movies do we have that we can just put into production?
Yeah.
It's what results in Star Trek: The Motion Picture being made, which is the slowest movie of all time if you've never seen it. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like 2 hours of watching a ship fly by.
Yep.
Best movie ever made. Fox, which has made Star Wars, discovers that they have a script called Alien.
Yeah.
Which was written by Dan O'Bannon, who was a John Carpenter connected. They made a movie called Dark Star together. Mm-hmm. And Alien is kind of like a updated version of the Dark Star script, which is a really low budget science fiction comedy if you've never seen it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of that movie gets transposed into Alien.
Okay.
They have the script and they're like, put this thing in production.
Yeah.
Just throw it in production. Ridley Scott directs it, and it comes out. It's a success.
Huge success.
It launches Sigourney into stardom. She becomes a veritable actor, of note off of Alien.
Yeah.
And it's a surprise because she's not teed up as the main character at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
That movie sets up Tom Skerritt as the main character, kills him off halfway through. Sigourney's the surprise protagonist.
Yeah.
And she's incredible in that movie.
She's amazing.
Yes.
7 years later.
7 years later, James Cameron walks into a boardroom. Do you know the story of how he pitches it? Yeah.
Well, we have to talk about James Cameron, who has already done
Terminator. Yes.
He's not yet done Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but
he has done Terminator.
The Abyss?
He has not done The Abyss yet. Okay. I think he's only done Terminator.
Okay. Damn, really?
He pitches, because Terminator is such a success. They're like, what do you want to do next? He's like, I want to make an Alien movie. I'm like, what's your pitch? It's Alien on a board. Puts an S at the end. Then he puts a $sign through it. The studio fucking loses their minds.
They
green lights
on
it.
the table.
They green light it. Even bigger success than the first Alien.
Yeah, huge success.
Sigourney gets an Oscar nomination for her role as Ripley in that movie, which was huge at the time. She gets 2 Oscar nominations that year, I believe.
Wow.
One for Aliens, and I do not remember what the other one is.
Did not know.
Gorillas of the Mist.
Did not know she got nominated for
It's
Aliens.
true. Yeah,
I mean, Aliens was so big. It's like some people even say it's bigger than the first Alien movie.
It's definitely a bigger movie. I am still partial to the first Alien, but on the slightest technicality.
I think a lot of people agree with you, where they say Aliens. Definitely, if you're just looking for a popcorn budget, popcorn blockbuster movie to watch, watch fucking Bill Paxton be like, game over, man, game over. It's. You're gonna watch Aliens, but if you actually want to watch I don't know the way that you can't call it art house, but it's just a classic B movie, B monster movie.
Alien is a bit more cerebral and scary than Aliens. Yes. My wife would say Aliens is scarier. She thinks the sheer quantity of them is scary.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's like comparing the perfect 14.7 ounce steak and the perfect 14.6 ounce steak. Ultimately, there's just 0.1 ounce off between the two of them.
Yeah.
They're still basically perfect.
I'd say one's a fillet, one's a ribeye. You know?
they're both basically perfect, but it's just a different cut.
Right. And then so that's 86.
And now that the studio wants to make another Alien movie.
Yeah.
It's not like James Cameron coming in and being like, let's make another Alien movie.
This is now 6 years later.
And they go through like 2 billion drafts of Alien 3.
Yeah.
There's like a version where it's Hicks as the main character. There's versions without Sigourney because she doesn't want to come back. Eventually, they do settle on a script, and they settle on a director named David Fincher.
Yes.
Sigourney gets a huge payout for Alien 3. She shaves her head for the movie.
Yeah.
The movie is made. David Fincher fights with the studio consistently through the whole process, gets removed from post-production.
Well, he walks out during
Yes.
post-production.
Well, it's...
There's a lot of different like the
regardless,
sides of
he
it.
is not in the picture.
The classical thing is like he was in the editing room and literally like walked out on anger and they was never seen ever again. I just want to show you like the poster, of course, because it's, you know, Alien 3, Sigourney Weaver, big bold text at the top, and then below that the slogan is 3 times the suspense, 3 times the danger, 3 times the terror.
Yes.
How many aliens are in this movie, Jeff?
One.
There's
one alien in that movie.
Like, here's the thing, like the gimmick of
There's generously 2 if you watch the theatrical cut.
Yes, generously too.
But if you watch the assembly cut, there's only 1.
Yeah. Arguably, like a movie with an interesting premise.
Alien 3 is a movie that I think the biggest sin of it is it's not as good as the first 2.
Oh, well, say more.
Well, no, I think like if Alien 3 was just a movie that came out called like
Alien,
called like Evil Church in Space, if that was the name of that movie. Number 1, terrible title.
Yeah.
Number 2, I think people would be like, this thing's pretty cool. This is a lot of fun. It's the fact that it's following up 2 perfect movies.
Yeah.
And has to settle for being pretty good.
Yeah.
There are 2 cuts of that movie. There's the theatrical and the assembly cut. The assembly cut is the editor remaking it as he remembers David Fincher's cut going.
Yeah.
Which is significantly better than the theatrical. I'm a big Alien 3 defender. I like Alien 3 a lot.
You like Alien 3?
I like Alien 3 a lot.
I think it's, like you said, not as good as Alien and Aliens. I hold that it has like a good like premise.
Yeah.
Charles Dance is like the love of my life in that movie.
Yeah. Charles Dance is hot in that movie.
He is
looks
so
great.
hot in that movie, and he dies.
Yeah, very poorly half. If Charles Dance is in that whole movie, it's probably perfect.
It is probably perfect. Yeah.
That is some like I'm not gonna say it's a perfect movie. It's not nearly as good as the first 2, but I still like it. I think it's like a totally acceptable finale to that trilogy.
But when you have to like follow up to the fact that like, remember Newt, that girl that you spent a lot of time with, trying to like dead and just gone.
I love that so much.
And also Michael Biehn, Corporal Hicks, also just like burnt to a crisp.
Yes.
We will not talk about them ever again.
That's my favorite choice that movie makes, is killing off Newton Hicks in the opening credits.
Like, I can understand why you'd think that. I guess for me though, it's just like because Alien and Aliens, very connected movies.
Yeah.
Like Aliens is such a clear sequel of Alien.
Yes.
Like it deals with the same planet, it deals with the same like person, it deals with a lot of the same like all that stuff. The connective tissue between Aliens and Alien 3 is like there's a person named Ripley who came from a place where there was an alien, and that's it.
Yeah.
And there's a company, the wretched Wayland Utah company.
Alien. Well, my read on I have a lot of reads on Alien 3.
Yeah.
One of mine is that it's basically like I think there's kind of like a religious like overtone to the entire Alien franchise.
We're going to talk about that.
But I basically think Alien 3 is like Ripley's Garden of Gethsemane moment, where she has to go through the greatest torment and anguish of her life and is being tempted with all these ways to get out, but ultimately has to go with the sacrifice.
I agree with that. Yeah. That's the one thing I do like about Alien 3 is that
she's literally trapped in a church.
She's trapped in a church, and like Alien 3 is the movie where you feel the most conscious of mind that like, Ripley has not gone home since the first movie.
Yes.
Like it's not till Alien 3 where you really register that. It's like, she's been like between like like cryo sleep and like waking up, it's been this endless nightmare
Yes.
forever for her.
And I think Aliens almost has, and which perfect movie. I think its ending is almost too optimistic for how nihilistic the franchise is. And so I like that Alien 3 immediately takes that away and refocuses the franchise. No, this is a deeply nihilistic franchise. That ultimately the only way out for Ripley at the end and the only triumph she can have is sacrificing herself, which she does at the end of Alien 3.
And it's a good sacrifice.
She throws herself into a molten pit of lava.
Yeah.
As a chest burster bursts out of her chest in the theatrical version, and the other one she just kind of like it's like ah and does like the cross.
Yeah. She does
As Peter Whalen's like no.
Yeah. And then her eyes open in 1997.
Yes.
Ripley is back.
She's resurrected.
Yes. 200 years later. But before we go into plot mode on this movie, Jeff, that's not where the story ends either.
No, because there's 2 to 4 more Alien movies.
Yeah, because then we have to talk about Prometheus.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about AVP anymore. It doesn't really.
That's not in.
It doesn't.
That's not in the universe. Although, like, I know I just spent the whole time saying like AVPR is like funnier and more enjoyable to watch than AVP. But the whole AVP premise of like, oh, it's the predators that brought the aliens to Earth to hunt them as the apex prey or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that was okay. But you're right. We're gonna ignore all that stuff.
We're gonna go right to Prometheus.
Prometheus,
Yes.
one of your favorite movies of all time.
Prometheus is one of my favorite.
Jeff
I'm
says
probably gonna
a lot.
get like
Jeff
executed.
No. Like for folks in the audience, like I just got a truth moment here. Jeff says a lot
Really?
that X movie is the best movie of all time or his favorite movie. But speaking of me, Stuart Elmore, someone who has known Jeff since 2019.
Yes.
About 5 years now.
Yeah.
You are actually
Dead serious.
that Prometheus is like
Prometheus is in my top 10 favorite movies
of all time.
It's probably the craziest thing I'm ever going to say.
Well, it's the movie that made you want to be a filmmaker.
It's the movie that made me like movies.
Yeah.
I can't say it is the one, but it's one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Going to see that movie with my dad at the AMC Cherry Hill in New Jersey was a very big moment for me. I liked that movie a lot. I thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
It's the first time I felt like art can kind of seep its way into a franchise movie and ask big questions without necessarily giving all the answers.
Now, I'm trying to go back in time to when Prometheus was being marketed.
Yeah.
And I think almost from the get-go, there was almost no disillusion of like, oh, this is an Alien prequel. Wasn't there like an attempt to try to like not?
There was a lot of back and forth on if it was an Alien prequel.
Okay.
They kept changing their minds. It was originally written as a movie called Alien Engineers.
Yeah.
By John Spates, I believe. And then Damon Lindelof is brought in by Ridley Scott to rewrite it. And Prometheus, eventually, they changed the name to kind of distance it from Alien, because it really isn't an Alien movie. It just is in the same universe.
It's in the same universe.
It's about the species that runs the ships that they find the alien on in the first movie.
Yeah.
The space jockey, as he was called, and the engineers, as the movie posits them to be.
Yeah.
That movie's so much about the asking questions like, what is the purpose of being made? What does it mean to be a god? If we created robots, aren't we just gods? There's no difference there.
Yeah.
In the image, the movie has so many questions it wants to.
It's all about like creation.
It's all about the concept of creation.
Yeah.
It's followed up by a sequel, Alien Covenant.
What do you think about Alien Covenant?
I love Alien Covenant.
You love Alien Covenant?
So good.
I actually don't hate Alien.
You know what I like about
Covenant.
Alien Covenant is the same thing I like about Alien 3 is that Prometheus ends with Shaw, played by Noomi Rapace, taking off into the stars, being like, I'm gonna go find my answers, and my faith will remain strong through it. And then Alien Covenant starts, and you realize that like she got to a planet, was vivisected, had an alien shoved into her stomach, was then killed by him.
Yeah. Well, her ovary
by Michael Fassbender as a sexual robot.
Yeah.
Who wanted to experiment with her.
That's where we find out that the origins of the facehugger eggs come from Elizabeth Shaw's human eggs.
Yes.
That's where that comes from.
Yeah, the idea is not that that's the origin of all of the xenomorphs.
Right.
But that David is essentially like recreating an old recipe that the engineers figured out. And he brings the aliens back. Yes.
Not create them.
Yeah, because like the ship in the first Alien movie has been there for a very long time.
And there was even like, there's a sigil of like the xenomorph.
Yeah. in Prometheus.
Meaning that they had made a xenomorph.
Yeah,
already.
they made xenomorphs, and David is just rediscovering the old recipe. Because he wants to be God and create the perfect version of their life form.
Yeah. And for you, Jeff, like that's amazing because it's like none of that is said in the movie. It's all things you have to kind of like pick up on your own.
It's said in the movie.
Not really.
There's a lot of parts in that movie which is Michael Fassbender either making out with himself or
I mean, like the whole like
walking around-
creating the alien bit.
yes.
The creating the alien bit, like there's no like clear, concrete like line of dialogue that's like, oh, they made xenomorphs and David's making another one.
That's all stuff in the background.
That's all stuff in the background. Yeah.
And then they were going to make a third one of those movies, but Alien Covenant people were so like, this is bleak. This is so upsetting. We don't respond to this and didn't make that much money.
Well, it was like, I heard the press of Alien Covenant was like, people complained about Prometheus being not enough of an Alien prequel.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, so we're going to make a sequel to Prometheus, but instead of calling it Covenant, we're going to call it Alien Covenant.
Yeah. That movie was supposed to be called Paradise Lost. Originally.
Right, exactly. And it's like now we're going to lean more into the Alien prequelness of it all.
Ridley Scott said, I'm gonna make my Prometheus sequel, but also I'll throw some scenes of alien terror in to appease the masses.
Yeah. I will say, best ending of an Alien movie ever.
It's great.
Of all the endings in Aliens, Alien Covenant is the best ending. Play Valhalla of the Gods. Like, wow.
The
That
entrance
was
of the gods into Valhalla.
that shook me to my core.
I love that fucking movie.
And then we're going to get Alien Romulus.
Yeah, coming out this summer.
Which is a TV show?
No, it's a movie.
It is a movie.
There are two Alien things being made right now. Alien Romulus, which is a movie directed by Fede Alvarez, and there's a TV show made by Noah Hawley, who did the Fargo show.
Okay.
Alien Romulus looks pretty good.
Looks pretty good.
I don't think it's going to be nearly as intellectually interested as the Prometheus Covenant double-hander.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good throwback that I will enjoy very much to the first Alien.
So, Jeff.
But I will mourn for Alien Covenant 2, which I have heard through the grapevine would have been insane.
Wait. Say that again.
I've heard through the grapevine that Alien Covenant 2 would have been insane.
Or Prometheus 3.
Prometheus 3.
Yeah.
That movie, I don't know anything about the plot, but I've seen some people who have read the script for it and have said pretty crazy things about it. Probably would have been really good.
Probably. But we're not here to talk about all that.
Yeah, that's the kind of the Aliens franchise summary. We're picking back up in the middle of it.
We're picking back up in the middle bastardization of the franchise,
Yes.
Alien Resurrection. Now, Jeff, you had said earlier that like they're throughout the entire Alien franchise, not only from like Alien through Alien 4, but even in going into Prometheus, Alien Covenant, there's always been a kind of like a biblical arc
Yes.
in this story. Do you care to share with us that?
I will go. I think I can go into that a little later.
Okay.
I think it'd be good to kind of talk about the movie.
Totes.
But one last thing I want to say about the franchise, especially in Resurrection, is that this has always been a very director-driven franchise.
Yeah.
Each movie has a very different tonality.
Yeah.
The first movie is like kind of this very artistic, like sensual fear to it that Ridley Scott brings. The second one's very bombastic, very large emotions, which is what James Cameron does. The third one has this claustrophobia and kind of inherent nihilism that David Fincher brings.
Yeah.
This one's just basically a dark comedy. Jean-Pierre Jeunet has said specifically he wanted to add a lot of comical elements to it.
Yeah.
It's also, but more importantly than Jean-Pierre Jeunet, it's written by Joss Whedon.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I was trying to mention that and I forgot about it. But yes, this is one of Joss Whedon's
First scripts.
It's
during the success of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I believe.
Yes.
This is after he's gotten an Oscar nomination for Toy Story.
Yeah.
Which is very funny to think about.
Yeah, one of Joss Whedon's first ever scripts.
He writes this script, and then the script gets paired with Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Yeah.
And both of them have said, like, we were the wrong match for each other.
Yeah.
Joss Whedon writes very, like, quick, fun, quippy scripts.
Yeah.
Think about Firefly.
Think about Avengers,
Serenity, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He has a very, like, winky, no-y attitude to him.
Yeah.
Jean-Pierre Jeunet comes from French films.
Yeah.
Which are... I'm not, like, a scholar of French film.
I don't know Jean-Pierre.
Yeah, I'm not like a scholar of French films. But his movies are, they're not this. They're not Joss Whedon style.
Right.
My man did not even speak English when he goes into this.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I kind of like this movie. I think it's the worst Alien movie. But the first time I watched it, I didn't like it that much. Watching it again for this episode, I was kind of like, there's something interesting here.
I won't lie. I watched this partly with my partner, and we were both having like a pretty good time watching it. Like, just in terms of the dumb enjoyment of it. Like, the thing is, it's like, you almost need to watch this with the same attitude you would watch like Snakes on a Plane. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't watch this with like the seriousness overtone of like an Alien movie. It's almost, it does it a disservice that the aliens are xenomorphs.
Yes.
But if you change the xenomorphs into something else, change Ripley's name to something else. This movie is kind of fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the first time I watched this in a sequence of all 4 movies, or all 6. I watched Prometheus and Covenant as well. And it really hurts from doing that.
Yeah.
Because you're very locked into Ripley's sacrifice in the end of Alien 3, and then you don't like, her just coming back in this.
And the ending of
feels
Alien
kinda cheap.
4 is god-awful.
Yeah. But the thing is, the more I thought about it and watched this movie out of sequence, I do kind of like how in character with the nihilism the opening of this movie is.
Yeah.
Where it's like the company and evil are so overpowered that they can just like take away Ripley's triumph at the end of Alien 3 and just bring her back.
200 years later.
Yeah, 200 years later. And they're just like, all right, you're back now. We're just so we can get the alien. You don't get to live. You don't get to die with triumph in you.
Yeah.
We're going to bring it back.
Yeah.
Which is somewhat of a meta text with the movie itself, like just being brought back.
Yeah, you thought we had ended this franchise on a semi-high
but
note.
no, we're the evil company, and we're going to bring the xenomorph back for more money.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. There's something there.
But it's would you say is that like a intentional text?
I think it has to be.
You think it has
I
to
think
be?
it has to be.
Okay.
I don't think you make a movie about where the characters are saying stuff like, yeah, I know this thing died 200 years ago, but we have to bring it back because there's so much, it's so potentially lucrative without being aware of what you're saying.
Okay.
That movie.
Okay. Fair.
I think Joss Whedon, for all of his problems, is smart enough of a writer to layer that into the script.
Yeah.
And Jean-Pierre Jeunet, I think, kind of leans into it a little bit in making this movie kind of a funny satire of itself.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
But like I said, it's still my least favorite Alien movie.
Yeah.
I think it's like at max like a 7 out of 10.
Wow. That's still pretty high.
Like a 6 or a 7. One of those
I'd
two.
say a gentleman's 6.
Yeah.
Gentleman's 6.
I think it's that at a max. But I still I found something there this time.
The first act is not horrible.
It's like kind of a goofy version of the first movie.
Yeah.
Again.
I would say like the first act is not horrible. It's then when you get all like the space pirates and all the fucking shit that goes on. Like
you want to jump into talking about the
let's jump into talking about it. So
question, did you watch the theatrical or the special edition?
I watched whatever edition is on Hulu.
Okay, which I think is probably the theatrical. Okay, the opening credits of this movie. Yeah. What were they set over?
I'm pretty sure it was set over like Ripley
in the test tube.
Ripley in the test tube.
Okay, so you were seeing all those like horrifying images.
Yeah.
I watched the theatrical the first time. I watched the special edition for this episode.
Oh.
Which is a different opening.
Yeah.
The opening is it starts with a xenomorph's like mouth, and then it zooms out and it reveals that it's a fly. And then a guy smushes the fly, and you realize he's in like a big crane on the outside of the ship.
Oh, okay.
As it just zooms out and reveals the ship.
Yeah.
It's like actually a worse opening than the theatrical one. There's not really that many differences between the two besides an extended ending and an extended opening.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just like some random lines are sprinkled through. But I hadn't seen it, so I figured I should watch it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I had seen the special edition before. I feel like I have, but probably a long time ago.
It's funny because Jean-Pierre Jeunet does a little intro on the Blu-ray for it. He's like, yes, this is the special edition to the film. It is not a director's cut because the director's cut is what you saw in the theater.
Yeah.
But this is just something else we thought we would put on the Blu-ray, so enjoy.
That's great.
It's great. He's just
fantastic.
I love when directors are like, this is not my director's cut, but fucking enjoy it. Like we threw some extra shit in there.
Yeah, right. Okay, so in the theatrical version, it opens with, all the Ripley in the test tube, and then like her, and then it's like the operating table where she's getting operated on. And so they cut open her chest and they
pull the little chest burster out.
They pull the little chest burster out, which is the alien queen from the Alien 3 movie that she had sacrificed.
She's impregnated with a queen in Alien 3 and she sacrificed herself to kill it. And now they've pulled it out.
Yeah, and so the whole goal of this is that they've been trying to clone Ripley, who was, at the time of her death, cloned or had the alien queen inside.
Yes.
So the difficulty of this process is cloning Ripley with the queen still inside of her intact.
Because all they have is it's very loose how they got her DNA. She does jump into lava.
A pit of lava. Yes.
Which is, Sigourney said, like, I did that so that, like, there's no chance that she can come back.
Yeah.
They found a way. Basically, they're just like, we found trace DNA elements inside of, like, the molten lava. And we're able to, like, pull out, like, it's future tech. It's explained. It's like waved away. It's fine.
Is this a Meathead classic?
It's kind of a Meathead classic.
I was gonna say
I don't know if it makes it fully into Meathead classic territory, but it's getting there. It's getting
like,
pretty close.
Because there were some things that were happening in this movie. I was like, this smells like
there's
Meathead
not
classic.
Enough lore for it to truly be a Meathead classic.
Yeah.
A Meathead classic. Have I talked about Meathead classics on the show?
Yes, you have.
A Meathead classic, because like we talked about The Secret of Karma.
Secret of Karma.
It has to have like Joe Rogan-esque lore to it. Like you have to be able to tell Joe Rogan to watch the movie and he has to believe that it's true. That's like the type of like if you show him Stargate, he's gonna be like, fuck, like shit. You telling me that the pyramids were built by aliens through a Stargate? Like, or like Independence Day 2. Is a big Meathead classic. Secret of Karma, huge Meathead classic. Battlefield Earth, that's a fucking Meathead classic right there.
Yeah, right.
This does not have enough like lore to it.
Yeah.
If Prometheus was this dumb, it would be a Meathead classic.
Yeah.
But instead they are two separate movies.
Got it. Okay. So then,
like your stoned older brother has to be watching this movie and telling you like how you need to watch it to have your eyes open.
Yeah.
The quintessential Meathead classic experience.
So not quite in Meathead classic territory.
Yeah, it's not fully in the territory.
But they're able to extract the alien queen. Ripley is then also like, she's in her holding cell. And we get very quickly that like this version of Ripley is, oh yes, I do remember you. AVP being
AVP does make it into the Meathead classic canon.
Because AVP is absolutely a Meathead classic.
AVP is a movie about how there's a pyramid hitting beneath the North Pole where all the aliens are.
You mean to tell me that the predators have been coming to Earth every 100 years to hunt the xenomorphs that they brought here themselves to infect the
and
sacrifices?
Built a pyramid?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Chronicles of Riddick.
Chronicles of Riddick, huge Meathead movie.
Huge Meathead classic.
Weirdly, Riddick and Pitch Black, the first and the third in the trilogy, not Meathead classics. Chronicles of Riddick, however, huge Meathead energy.
Classic. Assassin's Creed,
major Meathead. Have you watched Assassin's Creed?
I've not watched Assassin's Creed.
You should watch Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
That's a movie that you just watch and you're just kind of like amazed that this exists.
That's great.
Every scene is like the Michael Fassbender sitting in a room as people are like, the Templars have been around for 2,000 years. I mean, it's just the lore from the video games.
Yeah.
For 2,000 years. And they only exist because the Apple of Eden was given by the first civilizations that ruled Earth before the 2012 solar flare wiped them out. It's like the plot of that movie. Marion Cotillard is just like, yes, we will discover this. We'll discover the Apple of Eden. It will be great.
It's fucking great. That's fucking great. Oh, man. So then Sigourney Weaver's Ripley in this movie.
Yes.
She's very much playing this off as like, this is not the OG.
Not the same character.
This is not the same character. This is a clone of Ripley.
Yeah, Ripley 8.
Ripley 8. Yes. We'll get to that later. She has a tattoo, number 8. Quick sidebar. Have you played the Alien vs. Predator video game?
No. I know people like it.
It's actually pretty good. That is also like, if you could make a video game a Meathead classic,
yes,
that video game is a Meathead classic for sure. but it does almost the same thing, except instead of it being like a human, Ripley being cloned or whatever, it's like an alien kind of whatever. Because there's like an alien called 6 because they brand the numbers on the xenomorph's head. And you play as that, and you play as 6.
I know people like that game.
It's actually pretty dope.
Have you played Alien Isolation?
I've not, but I've seen all
It's like maybe the best game
I've seen all the YouTuber playthroughs of it, and like it looks fucking amazing.
It's really It's like the scariest game I've ever played.
It's like scientifically the scariest game ever.
Yeah, because the xenomorph is the really smart AI that knows how to track you.
Yeah, and they've actually done like studies on people playing Alien Isolation, and like it's like hailed as being like the actual like scariest game.
Great game.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
But Ripley.
She's
back, baby.
She's back, and she's an alien. She's a humid alien hybrid.
Yes.
So her blood is also acidic.
Yes. They were able to like get the cloning process mostly right, but it's only like 80% correct. There's still a little bit of the alien in Ripley and a little bit of Ripley in the alien.
And we'll figure out
at the end
what part of Ripley is in the alien.
Yes.
We'll figure that out.
Yes. And Stuart, would you like to talk about the scientists? Because I would like to talk about the scientists.
Oh my God. So, folks, how many of y'all have seen Chucky?
Are you seriously going to make him only Chucky? Oh my God.
Because Brad Dourif, who is the OG voice actor, who also has done Grima Wormtongue in Two Towers.
No, here's the thing about Brad Dourif. He only plays nasty little freaks.
He only plays nasty little freaks.
My man got nominated for an Oscar for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest for playing the quintessential nasty freak.
Yeah.
And then spends the rest of his life stuck as playing nasty
But
little
Brad
freaks.
Dourif, Chucky, Grima Wormtongue, any other nasty little freak character you can imagine that Brad Dourif has played, he plays the nasty little freak scientist in this movie. So to which point he and a bunch of the other scientists, so they're studying the alien queen, and that's where we get Winona's like crew arriving. And I should say it's not Winona's crew, like the captain of that like ship. I got massive Chronicles of Riddick bounty hunter lore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Michael Wincott?
Yeah, Michael Wincott. Yeah.
Do you know Michael? I love Michael Wincott. I'm a big Michael Wincott fan.
Yeah, me too. He's great.
He was in Nope last year. He's great in Nope.
Yeah. Elgin. Yeah.
He's the voice of the Prophet of Truth in Halo 2 for any real ones out there.
Wow. Big cut.
I like how he just kind of talks like this.
Michael Wincott, who plays Elgin, he's like the captain of this like space pirate crew, of which we have Ron Perlman.
Yes.
Hellboy himself.
This movie has so many great weirdo character actors. I have to stan.
Dominic Pignon,
who's a French actor who is like the one guy who Jean-Pierre Jeunet brings in to this thing.
Gary Durden, who plays a shoot-'em-up gunslinger named Christie. They all are archetypes of like the classic space bounty hunter crew of like a video game. Like you have your gunner guy, you have your like mechanic guy, you have your robot person. Like they're all like just, you know.
I want to quickly say, I'm looking through Dominic Pignon's filmography right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only like American movie he does. Until this past year, he is in 2 episodes of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon.
Wow.
He doesn't do like any other American stuff.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
But this space pirate crew shows up, and like, you know, they're talking about like the cargo.
Yeah. It's a very Firefly-esque crew.
Very Firefly-esque
You can
crew.
see where Joss Whedon comes at Firefly from.
Yeah. And so Winona Ryder, who plays Call, like, first off, I have to comment on like Winona's like appearance in this movie because like she is so like distinguishable outside of like the rugged, grimy crew.
Yes.
She's kind of like cleaner, very clean.
She makes the choice to go with like the pixie cut in this movie.
Yes.
That's a Winona choice to differentiate it from like her previous roles.
Right. And her name is Call.
Yeah. She's also very excited by the costuming of the movie because she's basically put in like kind of a
mechanic jumpsuit.
Yeah, like a jumpsuit.
Yeah.
She was really prepared that they were going to put her in something skimpy. And she was thrilled to see that she's just going to get put in a jumpsuit.
I was talking because I remember watching this movie before, and watching this last night with my partner, I saw one on screen. It's like, oh, she was like, oh, is she gonna be like Ripley's daughter or some shit like that? It's like, no.
Kind of.
This franchise always has the same gimmick in every one of its movies.
Yeah.
And she is that other gimmick. She's like, what does she have an alien in her chest? It's like, no, it's not that gimmick. And it's like, what gimmick are you talking about? And then when it revealed that she's a robot, it's like, that's the gimmick.
Yeah, because if you look at the Alien movies, there's so many different ideas in them.
Yeah.
There's the idea, it's like the first movie is so much about like the relations between blue collar workers and management and how expendable the blue collar worker is for like the lofty goals of the corporation.
Right.
There's that aspect. There's always the aspect of robots and like created humans in all these movies.
Yeah.
And what that means and like contrast with the alien as a created thing.
Yeah.
Can this robot have a soul? Ridley Scott's very interested in that. And he goes into Blade Runner immediately after Alien because he's like, I want to do more of that.
Yeah. Right. In Aliens, there's
Bishop,
played by
Lance Henriksen.
Lance Hendrickson.
Bishop is back in Alien 3 briefly.
Yeah. And then Lance Hendrickson is back as both Bishop and
Peter Wayland.
Peter Wayland, who I think there's a assembly and theatrical cut differentiation in Alien 3. Because in the theatrical, when he gets hit by the wrench, he's just regularly bleeding. But like his ear is like almost dislocated or something shit like that. And I have like vague memories, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that in the assembly cut, he is a robot.
No, in the assembly cut, he's a person.
He's a person?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm trying to think, because there's a...
I mean, it's like, it's intentionally left somewhat vague of like, you can believe whatever you want if they just sent another Bishop.
There's just a clear thing where he's like up against the fence in Alien 3 and he screams, I am not a droid, but his voice is robotic.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
No, I do not.
I'll try to pull it up at some point, but like it's just, I know it was very clearly differentiated in one or two versions of the movie. That one, he's like human and one, he's a robot for whatever reason that says.
Yes.
So at any rate, so I'm telling my girlfriend, like, oh no, like there's like the gimmick in all these alien movies that like, you know, one person is always secretly a robot.
Yes.
That you find out later.
And they have milky blood.
And they have milky blood, and that's how you find out.
In this.
Yeah, and it's Winona Ryder's character.
And then in Prometheus, it's David.
And then
Alien Covenant fucks it all up.
Because it's David and...
Well, no, not because of that.
Right.
You'll notice it's Ash, Bishop, Call, David, ABCD. And then Alien Covenant, it's Walter.
It's Walter.
Should have been Edward.
It should have been Edward, or
we could have called him Ed for short,
or some fucking thing. Yeah, you're right.
It fucks up. I mean, it's not real. Like, I love that movie. Ultimately, minor issue. Still kind of pissed me off of it. So, like, you should have just gone with E.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. So yeah. Yeah, that's true. So the space crew shows up. And they talk to the general on the ship. Also, we should describe...
We got to talk about the general.
We got to talk about the ship.
Yes.
Because this whole like thing that's being done is a military scientific research lab.
Yes. On
space station.
Yes. It's a big old ship called the Orica.
Yeah. What's the significance of Orica? I'm sure it means like the human's death.
Let me find out what...
It's like every single like... alien ship name stands for like doom of some kind. Like even like the
Auriga is a constellation.
Okay, that's not as exciting.
It's Latin for the charioteer, so it's like a chariot.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Yeah. And so they're on this like military science research lab station, and so they show up, and Elgin, Michael, what's his name?
Nostromo is a book by Joseph Conrad, set in the town of Sulaco, which is the ship from Aliens.
Yeah. So,
their little pirate thing cooks up to the Auriga, and
they talk to the general.
Yeah, they talk to the general, played by Dan Hedaya, and the funniest performance I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah,
he's like literally teeming with like hair. He's got hair coming out of every orifice on his body.
Yeah.
He's so sweaty.
He's very
Every scene, he
It's-
looks like his head is about to explode.
It must be 90 degrees on this ship because every actor looks like they're beads of sweat.
But like, if everyone else is sweaty, Dan Hedaya has like achieved new levels of sweat. Like, it's insane how sweaty he looks in this movie.
It is crazy.
The faces he is doing in every scene. I kept writing Hedaya in all caps in my notes for this movie.
Yeah. He's very sweaty.
I'm pulling up pictures of how insane he looks at scene. Look at like, what is he doing? Like, what's going on?
Oh my God, when he's fucking saluting. Yeah. Oh, that's fucking
when he
great.
removes his own brain. Like, look at how much hair he's got coming out of his leg.
He is a gorilla man. I don't know how else to say it.
He's like one of the people who really understands exactly the tone of this movie.
So they have like this like deal payment where like, you know, the general pays the crew and they give them the cargo.
Yes.
And what's the cargo, Jeff?
The cargo is frozen bodies.
Well, it's people
frozen
in their cryo chambers.
That were on their way to like a different planet for, it sounds like an oil drilling operation.
Yeah. And literally the space pirate crew just like
intercepted them and
intercepts the ship, boards them, takes their cryo tubes, and how fucked up is that?
Kind of fucked.
That's like royally fucked up.
That, like, one of those guys is Winona's brother, Yuri.
What?
One of those guys is Winona's like real life brother.
Oh,
Yuri.
okay, gotcha.
But that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, that's so fucked up.
It's kind of like the casual nihilism that's played for laughs in this movie.
It is because like one of the guys you come to know and learn about.
Yes.
And like he's like, what the fuck's inside me? And it's like this guy was just a fucking like blue collar worker who was on his way to drill some oil on a meteor or some shit like that. And then he wakes up and he's got a chest burster inside of him.
Like he dies brutally.
Dies pretty brutally.
Yeah, but he does take the other guy out in the coolest way possible.
Yeah. That's one of the cool things. That's like, you know, you get new ideas with the Alien franchise, which we'll talk about. So yeah, they take all the cryo tubes out of the cargo hold of the other ship, and that's where they like line them up in this like goofy ass procession.
Yes,
it's literally like a like they're in this giant like display case.
Yes,
each individual person. And in front of them is a xenomorph egg.
We do see the full-size queen in her own little cage.
Right.
Producing eggs.
What's interesting...
And Brad Dourif's like, isn't she beautiful? He like is like sexually attracted to this alien.
He's sexually attracted to the xenomorphs.
He makes out with one later.
Well,
and I do mean that
through glass.
Through glass, but he does do it.
Yeah, he does do it.
Yeah.
What's an interesting choice about this movie is this is like one of the first and only Alien movies that has a queen in it, but doesn't show the queen ever fighting.
Yeah, well, I mean, the queen's only in 2 of the main movies.
AVP and Aliens.
She's in AVP. Well, no, she's in this and Aliens.
Yeah.
She's in AVP if you want to count it.
I just mean like any Alien movie, AVP included, that has a queen in it, it's always like the next like climactic fight is with the alien queen. And this is a movie that like has an alien queen in it, but there's no like alien queen.
Well, I like that it thinks you think there's going to be and then does.
And that it does
exactly
the wackiest
what you don't think.
Fucking thing imaginable.
Yes.
Oh my God.
But the queen's looking good. She slays.
She's queening.
Yeah, she's queen.
Yeah.
Queen bee.
But she produces some alien eggs.
That infect these people.
Yeah.
And now they have 13 total xenomorphs in cages.
Yeah. That they're caging them together.
Yes.
What could go wrong?
Absolutely nothing. It goes perfectly well.
Yeah. They escape.
They do escape. Well, not yet. They did not escape yet. But,
right. We have to get to the Ripley basketball scene first.
We do. There's a scene where Ripley's like kind of talking with the scientists about how long she's been gone. It's been 200 years. She's a clone. She's not the original Ellen Ripley. And she feels different. I think Sigourney's really good in this movie.
I think so too.
Sigourney is very locked in.
Yeah.
I do ultimately somewhat in the back of my mind think maybe this movie's better if you remove Ripley from it and it's just like kind of an alien movie with some splatter.
Well, yeah,
it's just like they clone an alien 200. They clone the xenomorph 200 years later, and this crew on a ship has to deal with it.
Yeah,
like maybe that's a more enjoyable movie without the baggage that Ripley brings.
But
Sigourney is great in it.
She commits to the whole like clone of Ripley bit.
Yes.
And the scene where she sees 1 through 7 is really good in the movie.
It is great.
That could have easily been cut. Like it's a scene that almost doesn't belong in this type of movie.
Yes.
But we're glad that it's
a
in there.
great scene. In this scene in the little mess hall, in the special edition that I watched, they have a fun line where the guys are like, yeah, that company Wayland Yutani used to work for, they don't exist anymore. They were bought out by Walmart.
Yeah.
I don't think your version had that.
No, my version did have that.
It did?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind then.
Yeah. It's also important to note. So yeah, Ripley being like a human alien hybrid.
Yes.
Which means she has like special powers.
Yeah, she can smell.
She can attune to the alien queen.
Yes.
She can sense the alien queen's thoughts.
She has like enhanced smell and perception.
And strength. Because she can like bend metal and shit.
Yeah.
And she's got acidic blood too.
It's like kind of silly, but
it's very silly.
It's very silly.
She's a superhuman.
Yeah, she becomes a superhuman.
Yeah.
It's very silly. One of the many mistakes of this movie, but fine,
whatever. And then we get the mess hall scene where she's playing basketball.
Yes.
And the crew shows up.
Yes, they do.
And Ron Perlman in all his glory.
Looking like an ape.
Looking like a fine, mighty ape.
Ron Perlman looks like if you shaved a gorilla. That's what Ron Perlman looks like.
He does.
Like,
because he's beefy.
He's huge.
He's so muscular.
And he talks like this.
Yeah. And so
he's like, pretty lady, you're not going to play basketball, are you?
And he's like flirting and toying with Ripley, but Ripley's like...
He's keeping the ball away from him.
And then she ends up like punching him in the face.
She kicks him in the nuts.
Yeah. And then it's the whole thing of like, what the hell is she? Meanwhile, Call...
recognizes who Ripley is.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say it, but she does.
Well, there's a scene where Call like goes somewhere else to like investigate something and then she gets caught.
We've got to finish the basketball scene.
I thought we did.
No, we did not.
We didn't?
Because it ends with Ripley. She's pulled out of the room by the scientists and she has the basketball in her hands and she's walking out. And Ron Perlman like says some crack at her. And Ripley, without looking at the basketball, throws it over her head and gets the hoop.
Yeah.
And it is completely real. And she got it on the first take.
She did not get it on the first take.
She got it on the first take.
She did not get it on the first take.
She practiced for
She did
weeks.
not get it on the first take.
That's why Ron Perlman looks so amazed, because it's the first take.
No, it was not on the first take. That is actually a lie. It was actually many, many takes, and it was just Ron Perlman like, thank God she finally got it.
Why are you saying this?
Because it's true. No, I like read this like the whole trivia bit is that like people think it was the first take and it wasn't.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
Wow.
Not getting
I've
on the
been
first
betrayed.
take. Yeah. There's a lot
Fox has been propagating false propaganda.
Yeah, of course they are. So now it's like Call goes on her own little expedition.
Yes.
To like do some research.
Well, after Ron Perlman calls her severely fuckable.
Yeah. Right.
And Michael Wincott negotiates that the crew can stay on the Auriga for a few days.
Right.
As he calls it like a bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
While Dan Hedaya eats a lemon.
That's right. He is eating a
lemon. He's eating just like a fucking lemon raw.
Yeah. It's fucked.
I love whatever he's doing in this movie. Dan Hedaya is on a different level than the rest of the cast, and we have to appreciate it.
Yeah. And then Winona Ryder...
She pretends to be drunk.
Yes.
While Ron Perlman is actually drunk. And she's like, I need to go. And she like stumbles out of the room and then immediately regains her composure.
And she goes into Ripley's cell.
Yes.
And she talks to Ripley and it's like, I know who you are. I know, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I need to destroy the alien. And it's like, but it's too late. They already took it out of you. So everyone's going to die.
Yeah.
And then she leaves the room. And then that's when like the general catches her.
Yes.
It's like, you brought a terrorist on board the ship, blah, 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 blah. And there's a
Michael Winc's like, I didn't bring no terrorist.
Yeah. And so then that's when they're all like convening in the mess hall. Now, before we go to that scene, because we have to cut to the alien escapes.
Yes.
So this is where like we get Chucky.
Brad Dorsley trying to make out with the alien through the glass.
Right. But then the alien...
And when the alien does not reciprocate his love,
he does the frozen nitrogen.
Yeah, the frozen...
yeah. And it's like, she's a fast learner.
So we're a fast learner, aren't we?
Yeah. But then the aliens... So there's 3 in a cage, and 2 of them turn around, and they kill one of the
shit out of the third guy.
And use its corpse, which is leaking acid blood, to
burn through
melt
the floor.
a hole through the floor.
Yes.
First off, he looks down the hole and sees how many levels it burns down. That shit's going to burn through the hull, as we talked about in the first fucking Alien movie.
In the first Alien, it does, like, after hitting enough things, it does just kind of
Right. But did you
Stop.
see how many levels it burns through, Jeff?
It was 6 levels, and then the alien's body landed. I did count.
You did count?
Yes, it was 6 levels, and the
How
alien's body.
thick is this ship?
It's a big ship. It's beefy.
It's thick.
She thick though.
She thick though. So yeah, the aliens all escape, and it's immediately like fuck. And Brad Doris dies right away. He gets killed.
No, he survives.
Oh right.
He comes back at the end.
Well, he gets captured by an alien.
The alien like sticks its hand on his face. He's like, roar, and yanks him, yeets him down the hole.
Yeets him down the hole. And then the aliens are escaping.
Yeah, the aliens are now running all over the ship, as you would expect from an alien movie.
Right. And so then we cut back to the mess hall, and
this happens like 45 minutes into the movie.
Is it really?
It's like 45 minutes into the hour and 50-minute movie. If I have one big problem with this movie, it's all the alien movies take a long time to get to the alien.
Yeah.
Like the first Alien, the chest burst doesn't happen until over an hour in. And there's only like 40 minutes of the alien, really.
Yeah.
Aliens, same thing. Alien 3 has it a little earlier, but same basic idea.
Yeah.
And they all use it to like ramp up this dread that of the alien is going to like get loose and there's going to be all this chaos.
Yeah.
This movie like doesn't really do any dread ramping.
No.
You're just kind of watching all these people hang out as the aliens are all like, yeah, we're going to escape and you know it.
Exactly. It's like you as the audience member, the moment you see the alien queen in the cell, you're like, oh, well, we all know where this is going. Yeah. There's no surprise.
There's no dread of like, where is the alien?
Right.
Which is in the first one and the third one, like, you're like, where's the fucking alien?
Right. Yeah.
Or in Aliens where it's like, you know that there's going to be a lot of them coming, but everywhere they go on LV-426, you're like, there's no alien here. Everyone's just gone. This is eerie. This one's just like, the aliens are in the cage. We know they're going to get out.
Yeah. And then they get out, and then there's still no like suspense about the alien because they pop out everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So
at this point, I wrote, "Oh my God, Hidaya's arm hair," because this is when he pops out of the room with like mountains of hair.
Yeah.
And he's like, "They're escaping.
They're escaping." Do we get that quick scene with Dominic Pignon where he's like going down the hallway in his wheelchair?
Yeah.
Because we forgot to say he plays a disabled man.
Yes.
Where he's in a wheelchair, and it's part of his like gimmick that he's like again they're all like archetypes.
Yeah, they're all
of, like,
gimmicky characters.
They're all gimmicky characters. So he's like the mechanic tinkering guy.
Yeah, he's the mechanic in a wheelchair.
Yeah. And so then he's going down the hallway, and an alien pops up above him.
Yeah.
And he gets out a shotgun and shoots it.
Blue.
Yeah. And the alien doesn't die, but he gets hit, and some of the blood drips onto his leg.
Yeah, and he's like, ah!
And he can't feel it on its leg, but then it drips on his ear, and that's when he's like, "Rah, rah, rah."
And you're like, this guy's toast. He's so dead. He's not going to be one of the 3 people who survives the movie, definitely.
Right. And then the mess hall, I think, is this where like an alien takes Michael Wincott right away?
No, because
you're
there's
right.
a shootout between the pirates and the soldiers.
The soldiers, yeah.
And the pirates win. They were supposed to have removed their weapons, but they all have fun ways to have them hidden on their bodies still.
Yeah. Gimmicky.
Yeah. But they kill all the soldiers, and they capture Wren, who's like the lead scientist, along with Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
They capture him, and then the aliens are escaping. Evacuate. All the soldiers are running to escape pods.
This was my favorite bit of the
Best fucking
movie.
scene of the movie.
When they all run into the escape pod, and then you just see from the same wide shot the xenomorph crawling with them, and you just see blood, goopy blood, splattering onto the window.
But Dan Hedaya sees this happen, and he's like, pulls out a grenade and throws it in the top, and then he stands there.
Slowly
Salutes
saluting.
in like static shot, deeply slow. Folks, I cannot implore you enough. If you have not watched, if you don't watch this movie, at minimum, go to YouTube right now. Or when you're able, if you're in your car, don't pull up YouTube. But look up Dan Hedaya death scene, spoiler, in Alien Resurrection and enjoy. It is so much fun.
It's the best.
He pulls up like a slow salute, and then you just see a xenomorph come behind him, and you hear... And Dan Hedaya, with his like eyes bulging out of his sockets, reaches his salute hand back, literally pulls out a piece of his brain and looks at it in front of you. And he's like, "Oh shit!" And he falls to the ground dead. It's great.
It's really great.
It's so good. It's the tone this movie needs to have.
Dan
the entire
Hedaya,
time.
like really gave this
Academy Award potential, right?
Academy Award potential. That whole sequence was fucking.
I wrote Hadaya's faces during this evac scene. Salute before removing his own brain matter.
Evac scene is Jean-Pierre's like crowning jewel of this movie.
There's a part where Hadaya, like to go back, is like trying to close this door and there's steam coming out, and this is the face. He's like I'm doing like wide mouth, eyes closed. He's like trying to close the door.
Yeah, right.
But he's toast. He's dead. No more Dan Hedaya, and aren't we lesser for it?
Right. The pirate crew at this point is like, doing the classic thing of like, we gotta get to the ship.
But then Michael Winkett's like, oh, fuck. Dominic Pignon is still somewhere on the ship scavenging for material. I'm going to go find him. Everyone else head to the ship.
Who?
Michael Winkett runs ahead of them to go find Dominic
He dies in front of them, though, I think.
They find him after dead.
Do they?
Yes, because they hear him screaming and they run.
Oh, okay.
Because like he's on his own.
Yeah.
And he gets an alien like pops out from beneath him and pulls him down.
Yeah.
And kills him.
Oh, right.
And then his head's just like on the ground.
Right,
No more Michael Winkett. Sad.
No more Michael Winkett. Yeah.
I do want to shout out a really good death in the scene, which is that a soldier like finds the room where the aliens escape from and sees the holes down.
Yeah.
And an alien comes up behind him and turns the nitrogen freeze on.
Dude.
And the guy's like, ah! And he turns into a block of ice and tries to rip his arm off the wall, and his arm just splits in half, frozen.
And then he explodes.
Yeah, he explodes. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty gory, gross, and awesome.
Yeah, I got to give it to him.
Yeah.
I think an alien pokes its little tongue mouth through Michael Winkett's head and explodes his head. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I thought what happens is like the alien like grabs up and drags him down, and you don't see what the alien's doing to his lower body, but he's just like, it kind of gets like cut up and all that shit.
There's a lot of instances of the alien tongue popping out and like stabbing someone in this movie.
Yeah.
Jean-Pierre Jeunet clearly loves that visual.
Yeah.
Because like I think it only used once in the first Alien when it kills what's his fucking name?
Not Ash.
Not, I think Parker.
Parker. Yeah.
Parker, Kane or Parker. Regardless, it's like a fun. He loves doing it in this movie. A lot of people get like stabbed by the alien's mouth.
Yeah, the tongue.
Yeah, the tongue.
The wretched tongue. And then
they're also running. At this point, I am just kind of like, Winona doesn't really have much to do.
No.
She gets that one scene where she confronts Ripley, but you're like waiting for her to do something interesting.
Yeah.
She's gonna be like, it's the xenomorphs. And you're like, great, yeah, no shit.
Yeah. At one point, Ripley joins them.
Yes.
Because like they're trying to like break into her cell, and this is where she like pries open like a panel and cuts her hand and wipes her acid blood on the thing, and she's able to escape, which was very fucking easy.
A xenomorph's coming through the floor, and then it's like, and it explodes, and then Ripley crawls through its body with a shotgun.
Yeah.
And it's like, come with me if you want to live.
Pretty much, yeah. She shows up, and that's when Ripley is like, the ship is moving.
Yes.
And they're like, what are you talking about? You can't feel that. And then Call, who's like, no, she's right. The ship is moving. And then the scientist is like, it's the emergency protocol. Whenever something happens bad to the ship's engines, it auto
returns to home base.
Where's home base? Earth. Okay, pause. What fucking dumb bullshit military science operation is this? If something goes wrong on your military scientific research lab, to ship it to Earth.
That is kind of one of the main points of these movies is that is that companies are dumb.
Companies are stupid because if you have an outbreak of parasitic aliens,
this is the fourth time they've tried to get the alien to Earth.
Yeah,
they keep trying to do it. It hasn't worked. It's like Jurassic Park. They keep trying to open it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but then they're like, oh shit, we need to stop the ship now.
We got to blow the ship, and they're like, you can't blow the ship because something's
XYZ.
Yeah.
It's like a hand wavy explanation why they can't.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, well, if we can't blow the ship, we'll crash it.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm thinking, like, crash it where? And then you find out they're going to crash on Earth. It's like, that's a stupid idea.
Yeah. You can clearly see what Alien 5 was supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, is that it survives on the ship.
Yeah. You crash it into fucking Venus or the sun. Yeah. Like, you don't do that
Into the moon.
Into the moon.
Do it into the moon.
Dude.
Aliens on the moon.
Xenomorphs on the moon.
Yeah, I'd watch that movie.
I'd watch that movie.
Probably be pretty good.
That would be really good.
No, they're all moving around the ship now as a group.
Okay, but aliens on the moon is actually kind of cool.
And then
You just have Sam Rockwell
yeah,
on a moon base.
and he's like, "Oh shit, aliens!"
There's just aliens on the fucking moon.
Yeah.
And guess what? Like, we know aliens can live outside in space for a while. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying.
I love Alien. I love these guys.
Alien on the moon.
Alien on the moon. I watch it.
I'd watch it.
Wasn't there that movie like Apollo 18 or something that was about an alien on the moon?
Yeah, but that movie was bad.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't very good.
It's like found
One
footage.
day I'm going to do a marathon of all the movies with the names Apollo number after.
Apollo 18 has my favorite end credit scene. Do you know how Apollo 18
No, I do not.
ends? Well, first off, do you know the premise? This is a worthy sidebar. Do you know the premise of like the Apollo 18 aliens?
No.
It's that the rocks, the moon rocks, turn into these like alien spider-like creatures.
Yes.
Okay. So then when the movie ends, it's like I'm pulling it up. I gotta skip through all this shit. It's found footage film. And so with any like stupid, goofy ass found footage film, it's like you get the fucking eggheads who are like, this is real. This is fucking real, man. Where's the fucking full end? I'm trying to think of what.
It's real embarrassing.
This is really embarrassing. Okay, well, I can't find it. But basically, like, you know how like in biopics they have the end text?
Yes.
Apollo 18 ends with like the end text, and it said like there were no more missions classified under afterwards because Apollo 18 never really happened. Whoa. And the moon.
Fuck.
And then it fades away, and then the text comes back. It's like there are multiple moon rocks missing from NASA.
Whoa.
It's like
Whoa. Yeah.
Whoa.
That might be meathead territory. But no, we all know that the real reason we haven't gone back to the moon is because there's a crashed Decepticon ship on the moon, and it's being
obviously.
We all know this.
Obviously.
Sentinel Prime is
obviously.
still there.
Yeah.
But no, we get the best scene of the movie after this, which I think is also put in a bad spot. It's where Ripley finds all her clones. It happens weirdly early. It's like the first room they run into.
Because there's a lot of times where they're just like running down the hall,
Yeah.
stop, running down the hall,
But it's
running down
basically
the
like
hall,
they meet
stop.
Ripley, who hasn't really had an opportunity for any character development in this movie yet.
Right. No
Like,
one has.
we don't really know who Ripley 8 or Call are, but we get this scene 45 minutes in. We don't really know this.
Right.
That's what makes the first 3 Alien movies so effective is that it uses that first hour to really, you really get to understand these characters and their relationships to each other.
Yeah.
And the dynamic aboard the ship or the planet or wherever, the military squad.
Yeah.
You get the dynamic. So when the aliens start coming in, you inherently have an understanding of how this works. Mm-hmm. So you can just kind of have that in the back of your mind while all the chaos breaks out.
Yeah.
I don't really understand any of these people, aside from the fact that they're mostly played by goofy character actors who I like the performances of because they're doing silly stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like the only scene where like we get a little bit of like character bit from Ripley.
It happens so early in the movie. Like this feels like it should be like the third act Ripley decides who she is moment.
Yeah.
And so that happens like little under halfway through the movie. She finds this room with 7 failed Ripley cones.
And it's all like contorted versions.
So they look like xenomorphs, and she finds one that's still kind of alive that's like, kill me.
Yeah. It's Sigourney Weaver, but in full like lots of prosthetic shit that looks like a weird hybrid.
Yes.
And she has like that scar in her chest. Like they tried to like
take the alien out.
Take the alien out. And so she takes off. Okay. So you have this like grotesque clone on a table saying "kill me," right?
Yeah.
What does she pull out to kill?
A flamethrower.
A flamethrower. It's
pretty cool.
But like I was watching this with my girlfriend, and we both said like, why would you burn her to death? Fucking like just shoot her like and make it quick.
Well, like in all actuality, she'd shoot her and then want to burn her because she wants to burn all the evidence.
Exactly. Right.
But the movie does not have time for that, so we just need to burn her.
Right. So that clone's going to get a horrible, painful death.
It's significantly more emotionally effective if she just burns it all down while crying. That looks cool. It's very much matches.
And there's no
Aliens.
music. There's no music behind the scene either.
The end of Aliens when she walks in and is burning all the eggs.
Yeah.
It's like a nice little throwback to that.
Right.
But then they leave and she never brings it up again.
Yep. Nope. That's it. Then they running down the hall.
They find a science room where they find the guy who's like, "What's in fucking inside me?"
Yeah.
And they're like,
You have an alien.
You have an
in your
alien inside
chest.
you. You're gonna die soon. We should leave him here. And Cole's like, I'm not leaving him.
It's like we can freeze his body and we can extract it in the lab. And it's like you're literally asking for a sequel to this movie to happen, bitch.
Yeah. No, it's like that is like the way to save him. Like Prometheus shows it's possible, but also like it's probably not going to work. The company's just going to take the thing.
Yeah, and kill him later.
Yeah. Because the company wants the guy alive, or wants the alien alive.
Yeah.
Still. Then we get the underwater scene.
Yeah, the underwater scene.
I want to shout out real quick. This movie shot by Darius Kanji, who's
Yeah.
a very accomplished cinematographer. And I like how this movie looks a lot. This movie looks very good.
It looks very sweaty and gross.
This movie looks, which is perfect. It's like, it looks very wet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of steam going everywhere, a lot of dripping. Everybody's sweaty. It's very gross, grungy, industrial.
Yeah.
I like the look a lot.
What's she doing? Hey, stop. Fiona. No.
Cat doing crazy stuff in here.
Cat doing crazy stuff. Ripping up the carpet.
Yeah.
So underwater sequence. Immediately you think Dominic Pignon.
Yes.
Because he's in a wheelchair.
He's like, Sucky Blue, I can't swim. He has reconnected with them. We never said that.
Yeah, he has reconnected with them.
So they see 3PO him to one of their guys' backs.
Yeah.
And you're like, this guy ain't getting out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they start swimming, and then
They have
just
to swim 90 meters through the kitchen to get to the other side of the ship.
because it's the coolant of the ship.
It's the water cooling system that's leaking.
Yeah.
And it's like flooding the lower levels.
I love how gravity works on this ship.
Yes.
I love how gravity works on a lot of old sci-fi ships.
Yeah.
Of just like, you know,
It just goes down.
there's just a gravity drive, and
you're like, how does it work? And they're like, it just
makes
does.
everything go down.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I love how like in old space movies, spaceships were all like two-dimensional.
Yes. Star Wars. Every Star Wars movie is like, it just goes down.
Yeah, it's just like there's a top floor and a bottom floor, which in space is not how it fucking
Yes.
works. That's why like the Death Star could have almost been like a cool concept in that regard, that it's actually like a fucking moon.
But no, it just goes up.
But no, it is actually just floors that go up and down with
Yes.
the Death Star too. Anyway, whatever.
It's not like 2001: A Space Odyssey, the spinning thing.
Yeah, that's the physics way to do it, right? Or Interstellar.
But you know what's cooler? This. It's much.
Yeah. So enough about that. But yeah, they start this underwater sequence, and just like in
Kind of the best scene of them. It's like the best action sequence.
It is the best action sequence of the movie, and just like in episode 9, where Finn yells out, "They fly now!" Just like in this moment, I say,
now.
"They swim now."
This is a good Winona sidebar here
Yeah.
because we never talked about this, but when she was 12 years old, she almost died.
Yeah.
She drowned on the California coast. And was pulled ashore and not breathing with no pulse. And was basically ready to be declared dead, but the lifeguard was able to like
Revive
pump her enough that water came out and she started like came back to life essentially.
Right.
And ever since
phobia
then, she has never been underwater since. She will swim, but she does not go underwater.
Yeah.
She hates it. Like she has a deep traumatic fear of it.
Yeah.
And she tells them this when she agrees to do the movie. And they're like, okay, we'll just use a stunt double. And then Winona cuts her hair really short for the character.
Yeah.
And is like, I'm ready to do it. And they're like, the stunt double is not going to work anymore because we can't hide the hair. They can't hide the face with the hair.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll do it. But I'm not going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
And she basically describes that this is the most physically upsetting thing she's ever done in a movie.
Yeah.
She calls it the worst physical experience of her life. She spent months training for it, like breathing exercises and just like emotional exercises to get ready for this sequence.
Yeah.
Because not only does she have to do the swimming part, but then later she has to do a jump from a top floor, fall into the water, and like float away.
Yeah.
moment.
That's fucked.
Yeah. But she, did it and was like, worst thing I've ever done. Never going to do it again. I'm happy I did it.
Right.
And she does say like later she's able to swim a little better at home and around because like she got over her fear of being underwater through the force in this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, the aliens are swimming after them.
They grab one
They
person.
grab one of the crew members. Yeah. And that's when they're like climbing up the ladder to get to the door. And Christy, who is pretty much being grabbed by an alien, and Dominique, who's like essentially holding onto the ladder with dear life.
Yeah.
Ron Perlman at this point,
Yes.
who's on a ladder.
Well, no,
What did you call him?
some guy, he looks like a shaved gorilla.
He looks like a shaved gorilla.
But there's the guy who's climbing. Is his name Christy?
Yeah.
And then Dominic Pignon's on his back.
Yeah.
And then the Christy, like, he gets hurt, or some acid blood like splashes on the side of his face when they blow up an alien.
Yeah.
It's like, and so Dominic Pignon now has to hold on.
Yeah.
With Christy like strapped to him.
Yeah.
And then Ron Perlman, I'll let you describe what Ron Perlman
But like, as we just described him as like, you know, being like a shaved gorilla, he also does like a gorilla maneuver where he wraps his legs around a ladder bar.
Yeah.
And then like does like kind of a backwards flip down and shoots at an alien that's like trying to kill Christy. Now the problem, which is he's successful. He kills the alien, but the alien died with its arm around Christy's leg.
Yes.
So now Dominique at this point is holding on to two very heavy bodies. Yeah. And he's like, no, I'm slipping. I cannot hold on. And Christy does the classic sacrificial moment where he unclips himself from Dominique. He's like, no, don't do it. And then he falls.
I got a fucking problem with the sacrifice.
Yeah.
I hate unnecessary sacrifices in movies.
Because are there any more aliens in that pool?
No, you know what this guy could have done?
He could have
used his hands and grabbed onto the handlebars to give 4 points of support and then shaken the alien off.
Yeah.
Instead, he's just like, nope, I'm going in.
I'm going in. I'm dying. This is my moment.
It's like in the Mummy movie. We talked about this when, God, I can't remember his name, but the head of like the Museum of Antiquities sacrificed himself as they all go down the manhole and then gets immediately consumed by the crowd.
Yeah, right.
He buys them like maybe 1 second of time.
Pretty much. Yeah. And so he dies, and then we forgot to say, like, so Winona, when she gets to the top, gets shot by the general.
No, it's by the scientist.
It's by the scientist guy, yeah. And so she gets shot and she falls into the water. And
Winona's dead.
You think, oh no, Winona's dead.
That's the twist.
That's the twist, though, because when she gets to when they all get to the top and they're trying to get through the door,
Ren, the scientist, escapes with he just escapes by himself.
Yeah, he escapes by himself and he locks the door.
Yeah.
Also, we never talked about that. They call the ship Father.
Yes, instead of Mother.
Instead of Mother.
Mother.
And so,
oh Lord, have mercy, Mama.
Mama, close the doors.
Oh Lord,
Mama, blow up the ship.
Mama, blow up the ship. All right now.
And so he locks the door. So they're trying to get through the door, and then the door opens, and on the other side is Winona, who's still alive,
with a little hole in her chest that's oozing milk.
It's oozing white, milky blood.
Yes.
And you're like, you're a robot. But not only is she a robot, she's a robot made by robots.
Yes.
She's like a second gen.
Automaton,
or whatever the fuck they call it.
And the problem here is that Ripley has had like strained relations with the robots in the past.
Yeah.
Ash tries to kill her, and then she learns to like Bishop.
Yeah.
And then the movie doesn't really play on that in this. It goes with a different aspect with Winona that we'll talk about. But I feel like Ripley should have a little more fear of
robots.
Yeah, of robots, or a little more trepidation.
Yeah.
But it's whatever.
Immediately they're like, okay, the scene after this that I can remember is that Winona and Ripley have a conversation that's all about like going back home or some shit like that.
Yeah. They step aside into a chapel.
Yeah.
There's a big cross.
They have all the time for this, by the way.
Yeah, the ship's like gonna crash. And Ripley's gonna try and convince Winona
to like take control of the ship.
Yeah, they like take control of the ship.
Cat business.
So like take control of the ship. But for the most part, like this is a nice little scene between the two performers.
Yeah.
And it's also where I'm going to sidebar into talking about like kind of the religious overtones of this franchise. Yeah. It's a good scene to do it because they're in a chapel. There's a big cross. And Ripley is basically inspiring Winona, like, you have to, take control in this moment and be like the daughter of man. You're the next generation. You're robot people.
This is great.
Yes.
They're doing this very well in the script.
Yeah, no, it's like the script is weird.
Script is fucked.
Yeah. But I like this scene and what it kind of implies for the overarching religious themes of the franchise. Because if you kind of look at this...
Here we go.
Oh my God.
Let's get into it, Jeff.
No, I look back at a paper I wrote in 2017 on this exact topic. Yeah, I know, right? And like, God, I was a terrible writer in 2017. Hopefully I'm better now. But I do like the ideas that I had there that I still hold.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you look at this franchise linearly from Prometheus to Resurrection, it's kind of like a biblical retelling loosely.
Let's go and let him cook. Let him cook.
Let him cook. If you look at Prometheus, is basically like
Genesis.
It's the apple of Eden. It's like people are trying to figure out, they're trying to meet God. And they're promised all these answers on this planet that they go to, and instead they find death.
Yeah, which is the tree of good and evil.
Yeah, but like not Fiona Shaw. That's a real person. Elizabeth Shaw. She's tempted by this apple of answers that David, the android, is like provoking. Because in modern like Christian theology, a lot of times they don't believe in like the devil as like a real thing. A lot of like modern Christian movements are like, the devil's not like a guy with horns and a stick and he like,
Interesting.
The devil is the concept of evil that of the evil men do. The devil is that inherent temptation. It's not like a real person or a thing.
Right.
It's the concept of evil. Like men create the devil when they do evil.
Yeah, it's the good and evil redefinition paradox that there is not good and evil. There's good and there's lack of good, which is called evil. Yeah. It's like you can't. It's like there is no hot and cold. There's hot and then there's less hot, which is what we call cold. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the idea that the devil is the evil men do.
Yeah.
And David, the robot, is kind of the representation of that he is the evil men have created.
Yeah.
In the image and likeness of themselves.
Right.
He's a flawed creation because people are flawed. They're not perfect like God.
Yeah.
And so David's like tempting her with this, like, if we continue on, you will find your answers. So they go on to find their answers. Alien Covenant, her answer is that you're going to die. That's the answer she gets. She does get to meet God, but not in the way she anticipated.
Well, and then on an overarching biblical path of it, Covenant is also like a colonization ship, meaning they're
pilgrims.
Going somewhere. There's a pilgrimage.
Yeah,
one might even call it an exodus.
Yeah, and the covenant is like the connection between man and God is what covenant means. Yeah, it's an agreement,
right? Which is the story of Noah. Yeah,
but Shaw goes to find her answers. She does get to meet God by being murdered and is presumably sent to the afterlife.
If there is one in this world.
Yeah, if there is one in this world. Another great moment in Prometheus is the end when Peter Wayland dies. And he just goes, there's nothing. Like he's expecting to see a white light or something, and he just sees nothing. And then David's like, I know. Have a nice journey, Mr. Wayland. It's a great scene.
Yeah.
But Covenant is so much about like how her quest results in the creation of the xenomorph. Because David is now, he goes to the planet of the engineers, kills them all, kills God.
It's the flood.
Not kind of. It kind of works as the flood.
It is.
Yeah. The flood is sent by God to wipe out everything except for two of each animal. It doesn't quite fully work. Well, there's like symbolism that connects it.
No, I agree. I just think it's like it's the flood in its reverse, where it's like we're gonna.
It's using a biblical flood for a different reason than Noah's flood. And Noah's Ark.
Right.
And the ship, I think, is called the Ark. That they land with, but whatever.
Yeah. Right.
But David, like, he kills all the engineers, and he is trying to reestablish himself as God, like Satan trying to be on equal footing as God.
Yeah.
He tampers with all the engineers' histories in the quest to create the perfect organism of evil. Like this, like that's what Ash calls him. The first alien is the perfect organism.
Yeah.
There's a character played by Billy Crudup, Captain Oram, in that movie, who's a deeply religious, devout man. And through his faith, his blind faith, he ends up being the vestibule for the first xenomorph.
Yeah,
it bursts out of his chest and kills him with David's tampering.
Yeah, given into temptation. Yes. It's very much like that whole scene in Covenant is very Snake in the Garden-esque. Like how David's like luring him into this like basement dungeon where the eggs are. And he's like, take a look inside. Take a look inside. He's like, what will I see? It's like life.
Yeah.
So it's very much like Snake in the Garden-esque.
David is the snake. He is the evil men do.
Yeah.
He's the devil. He is created by man's ill intention.
Yeah.
Quite literally in this case, and goes on to try and destroy his creators, the man.
Right.
Which is what the devil is.
Right. Yeah. And so then when he gets on the ship posing as Walter.
Yes.
And then infects the whole like colony essentially.
We'll never know what happens next. They're never going to make that movie.
Right.
But to my understanding, it would have been very biblical and crazy.
Yeah.
Which does leave us with a bit of a gap from the Old Testament to the New Testament. Because we do just kind of jump into the New Testament.
Right. Yeah.
Religiously.
Because then once we get to Alien with Ripley.
Yes. Because Alien and Aliens aren't really that religiously based. It's just kind of like Ripley is a heroic figure who's chosen to fight the aliens.
The evil, yeah.
Fight evil.
Yeah.
If you look at the aliens, they're like demons. They're like servants of Satan. They're servants of evil.
Yeah.
They're representations of sin in a sense.
Yeah. Are you going through your paper?
I am going through my paper as dire necropolis. That's a good fucking line in that movie.
Dire necropolis?
Yeah, David calls his thing a dire necropolis where he's living. It's a great fucking line.
That is good.
But we just kind of have to fast forward a bit because we don't have the third Prometheus movie. But Ripley is that. She's not a chosen one in the traditional sense. Like, there's no prophecy of Ripley, and thank God they never went down that road. I would be very upset if they went with that.
Right. Yeah.
Ripley is, in turn, if you remove the religious aspect, wrong person, wrong time, or right person, wrong time.
Yeah.
Which is what's great for her character. But we're looking at it from the religious aspect. She's the one who has to fight the evil.
Yeah.
In the same way that in the Bible and religious beliefs, like, Jesus he comes to stop evil and dies for man's sin and defeats evil by being resurrected.
Yeah.
Overcomes death.
Yeah.
Ripley fights the evil, and then she, through all of Alien 3, is basically in like this torment, which is the Garden of Gethsemane in the Bible, which is where Jesus is like in agony the night because he knows he's going to die the next day. And he's begging God, asking for like, give me an answer. Tell me why this has to happen. He's not getting an answer. And he's being given options like, if you repent, there are a chance you can avoid the cross if you recant God. And he doesn't do it, and he gets strung up on the cross and killed for it. Which is basically Ripley in the movie. Because the whole second half of Alien 3, she's being given opportunities to escape. The company is like, we'll freeze you and we'll take the alien out of you, and you'll get to live. You'll be fine. We'll let you go. And she knows that that's only perpetuating an evil.
Yeah.
She would just be letting sin continue to run free, evil continue to run free in the world. And so she sacrificed herself, quite literally, is in a cross formation when she falls into the lava.
Holding the sins of the world
inside of her, quite literally.
Yeah.
It's the Jesus story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very subtle, but it's the Jesus story. Yeah. But she's dead. Yeah. And so if you were to look at resurrection as like the end, where it's like, okay, Ripley has been resurrected after defeating evil. This is kind of the point where I think that Jean-Pierre Jeunet, whether intentionally or not, and I think it's probably unintentionally because like there's no Covenant or Prometheus at this point.
Yeah.
I think he kind of is intentionally making an excellent critique of the Bible. Because and I'm not trying to make a theological point here, but like Jesus returns 3 days later having overcome death.
Yeah.
And evil still continues in the world, but they get to spread the message of Christ.
Right.
And that's kind of what it is here is like Ripley sacrificed herself, and we stopped the xenomorphs, but the company's evil enough, they'll just bring them back.
But to play, I'm going to use the words wisely, devil's advocate with this.
Yes.
Call has heard the message of Ripley.
Exactly. Yes.
And has devoted herself into continuing Ellen Ripley's
quest to fight the aliens. Yes.
Call is a disciple, an apostle of Ripley.
A castle? I was trying to do a call soul. Didn't quite work.
But so like
she's like an apostle. Yeah.
So I guess like to that point, it's like and again, we're not theologians having a theological talk here about it, but it's like if you were to kind of make the parallel between like Jesus died for everybody's sins through his message, and the message being go out and spread the news of my name and what I stood for
against
and fighting against sin and evil. Call, who heard that message of Ripley, who died to destroy evil. Evil's still around, but she takes that message to continue the quest, the fight for that. So it's like it's almost like an Acts of the Apostles, Revelation-esque sort of thing.
God, I would love them to make an Alien 5 that's just fucking Revelation. World gets consumed. That's probably where they were going with Alien 5, the xenomorphs getting loose on Earth itself.
Yeah, and that's Judgment Day.
Yeah,
that's D-Day.
Yeah, a movie that they will never make. But
no. That was AVP Requiem.
But I don't think it's like it is kind of where this scene comes down to. Is it is like kind of the culmination of the religious themes of this franchise. Mm-hmm. As you know, Call has to literally answer the call. Mm-hmm. She's heard the call.
Yeah,
and has to accept her place and continue Ripley's journey, and take control of the ship by plugging it into her arm like an IV. Elegant,
very elegant.
But I don't think it's not a perfect 1-for-1 connection.
Right.
But this whole franchise, like weirdly, in spite of being made by 5 different directors, no, 4, only 4, because Ridley did 3 of them. Mm-hmm. 4 different directors, has weirdly kind of concocted this religious undertone to it that is not there in the first one. I don't think there's really a religious basis in the first one until you look at it in the lens of the rest, where it fits nicely in.
Yeah.
But that just really is fascinating to me. How would like Fincher, Ridley Scott, James Cameron, Jean-Pierre Jeunet have created this biblical retelling through this goopy sci-fi franchise about aliens popping out of people's chests.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be there, but it works.
Yeah. It's an evil corruption thing.
Yes.
Where it's like we get infected with it and then an ugly, gross, sinful side of ourselves pop out.
Yes.
You know.
Which is a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun to talk about.
It's one of my like favorite readings of a movie franchise is the religious undertones of Alien.
And so to that very point, Jeff, then I must simply have to then segue us back into the movie to ask you the next follow-up question is, as we've just spent a lot of this time talking about the religious overtone, how does baby alien hybrid that comes out?
He's the Antichrist.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's the Antichrist.
He's the Antichrist. Yeah. Which is not really a biblical thing.
Yeah, it's not really a biblical thing, but you know what? We're going to put it in anyway.
Right, yeah.
He's like the perfect enemy of Ripley, and then they suck him out a window. That's the other reason why it's fun to talk about the religious aspect of the franchise. Like, yeah, it's a representation of the devil, and then she gets in a power suit and beats the shit out of it.
Yeah, right.
It would be like if you read the Bible and there's just a scene where it's like, yeah, Jesus spent 40 nights in the desert and he was tempted by the snake and then he beat the shit out of it with his bare hands. Like,
yeah. And so then, yeah, they're running through the halls.
Plugs the thing into the ship and she takes control of the ship.
Yeah.
And she accelerates it towards an empty spot of Earth, which is seemingly like in southern Africa. But
stupid.
But she accelerates it towards there. And then there's like a cool bit where like Dr. Wren's like running through the halls and he's hearing Winona's voice over the intercoms. She's like, yeah, I'm taking control of the ship now, asshole. And Sigourney's just like, you got a funny side in you, don't you?
Yeah.
Which is another thing that was mentioned in the book that I was reading, is that the two of them bonded over like kind of having a dirty sense of humor on the movie.
Yeah.
There was like a Valentine's Day display where they had champagne and like cupcakes for the crew, but also little gold coins that instead of candy inside them had condoms.
Oh, nice.
Like you pick it up thinking there'd be chocolate, but then there's a condom in there.
No.
And apparently a crew member just like picked it up and threw it in his mouth without looking. And Winona just said like, I hope it's flavored.
Nice.
That's just a fun story Sigourney recounted of like, she has a good sense of humor.
Yeah, yeah.
But in this scene, Sigourney's just like, you got some spunk in you.
Yeah, right.
And the scene also fulfills like Ripley's whole of having lost Newt in Aliens.
Does it?
It's like an attempt to do it.
It's an attempt to do it.
Because in Aliens, which weirdly doesn't happen in the theatrical version, but in the special edition or director's cut of Alien or Aliens, it's explained at the beginning that Ripley had a daughter who's now dead because she's been so long
Because she
in
was
space.
in for 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Newt is kind of like her chance to have a new daughter, which is why she's fighting for her at the end. It's about the mother and daughter relationship.
Yeah.
And then Newt dies in Alien 3.
Right. Well, at the very end, Newt calls her mom.
Yeah.
In the special edition, I'm pretty sure.
It's a lovely scene. I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
But Newt's fucking RKO'd at the beginning of Alien 3.
Yeah.
They literally have a biopsy.
That scene in Alien 3 where they have to
cut up Newt.
They cut up
Cool
Newt.
as fuck.
It's cold as fuck.
Yeah.
And Charles Jan's like, see, I
No,
told you
nothing.
she drowned.
She didn't have gonorrhea or whatever he accuses her.
It's
Dysentery. It's
I almost want to cholera outbreak.
Cholera.
Yeah.
But this is like, she does kind of talk. She even like opens up to Call of like, I had someone who I cared about, who I thought of as a daughter, and then I lost them. Mm-hmm. You have the same spunk as her. Mm-hmm. She's like, you're like Newt. And it's a nice little moment of bonding between the two of them.
I think that's a special edition thing because I didn't.
Is
that,
it? Okay, you didn't
that
get
was
that?
not in the theatrical
Okay, well, it's in the
version.
special edition.
Yeah. That would have been good to see.
It's a good scene.
Yeah.
Winona also at one point says, all aliens proceed to level 1. Which is funny. I like hearing her voice say that.
But then they start running back through the hallway.
Yeah.
And Ripley then stops. And she's like, I feel her. She's in pain.
And then the floor open. You see the alien's fingers like whoop, pull the floorboard down.
She gets Mario'd down the sewer pipe.
Yes.
do.
But I do like the imagery next because it's like an alien nest. And she's just like kind of fluctuating on top of it and she gets sucked. It's very like Hieronymus Boschian imagery.
Yeah.
Of her just getting like sucked into this like eldritch nightmare.
Yeah. Very much so.
And she gets pulled through and they're like, leave her, she's dead.
Yeah.
So they run to their ship, the Betty.
Yeah. And
Where-
it takes them 3 hours to activate it.
Yeah.
Because like for all the shit that happens in between,
Yeah.
the ship still has not taken off.
Yes.
It's
There's-
like, bro.
Yeah. They're still on the Betty turning it on. And then Dr. Wren, the scientist, comes out with a gun and is holding one of the guys hostage. I think it's the guy who has the chest burster inside him, the random dude.
I think it is too.
And then he starts convulsing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no. And he grabs Dr. Wren, puts his head on his chest. So when the chest burster pops out, it goes through the other dude's head. And then Ron Perlman's like, and lays into him with a machine gun.
Yeah.
And killing both the guy, the doctor, and the alien.
Pretty cool scene.
It's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Cut back to the nest where Brad Dourif is still alive, strung up in this like goop. And he's like, she's beautiful. The thing, you may have gotten the alien senses, but you gave her the greatest gift of all, a human reproductive system. And then the alien queen's like, giving birth.
Okay, but what? Jeff, you skipped over like a really powerful fucking imagery moment.
Oh, of her being carried by the one alien?
Yeah. Is that what it is?
It's her being carried by the xenomorph.
It's not.
It kind of looks like they're having sex,
Yeah.
but it's not. She's being carried by a normal xenomorph. It's not the queen. At least I am fairly certain she's not.
I am going to challenge you on that. I think she's being held by the queen because it's a fucking massive xenomorph then. Ripley, alien, queen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's just being carried by a xenomorph
I don't think so, but okay.
because it's not that big.
It's pretty big. I can't find the exact scene, but you know what? I'm gonna let it go. I'm
Because also like Ripley couldn't impregnate an alien queen.
right. It was just so weird.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
It does kind of have that imagery, but no, I think she's just being carried by a normal alien worker drone.
Okay.
But she gets dropped off and it's beautiful. And the queen gives birth to an alien human hybrid, which looks grotesque.
It's the sickest fucking
Pretty
thing.
crazy. Stuart, do you know what he originally looked like?
What did he originally look like? What did he originally look like, Jeff?
Ooh.
What did he originally look like?
You don't know?
No.
Oh my
I
goodness.
don't know what he looked like originally.
So this was the original design for the. It's the same puppet. They just had to CGI some things out of it. This is what he originally looked like.
What?
His stomach was a huge vagina with a penis coming out of it.
What the fuck?
And they filmed the whole movie with that as the design.
How do you take that seriously as a performer?
Because like Jean-Pierre Jeunet was like, oh, it is so terrifying. You being now attacked by both sexualities. Because like the alien looks like a penis. That was like part of the terror of the first movie, is that like it's a sexual creature that's going to attack you.
Yeah.
And like there's a part where it sticks its tail between the woman's legs. But they're like, oh, we will continue that. We put the vagina and the penis on it. And then they got into post-production. It's like, maybe I went too far in a few places. And so they CGI over it. Just like a lump, a pot belly.
It looks grotesque.
It's terrible.
He
looks crazy.
It looks so stupid.
This alien hybrid looks insane.
It has very human-like eyes, which is weird.
Yeah, it has like human eyes and a skull face on a xenomorph's body.
Yeah.
I kind of like him. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, great with kids.
Great with kids.
Yeah, there he is.
Oh, God. He looks so grotesque. And so then they're on the ship and they're closing the cargo door to take off. But before they can take off, the cargo door does not close all the way.
Yeah, Ripley finds her way to the ship as well.
Yeah. So then
Brad Dourif gets his head ripped off by the hybrid after he says, "You are a beautiful butterfly," and then it rips his head off. And
yeah,
it also kills the alien queen
it does kill the
because
alien
it sees
queen.
Ripley as its real mother.
Yeah,
And they like kind of embrace, and then she
which is
runs off.
weird. Why does it see Ripley as its real mother?
I don't know.
That's the meathead classic bit of it.
Yeah. But they're on the ship and the door doesn't close all the way. And you're like, well, the fucking aliens on board didn't see that. And calls
see
like,
that
I'm going to go to the back and close the door. Which she goes back and closes the door.
Well, she doesn't.
She doesn't succeed at closing the door because the hybrid's like,
yeah, the hybrid comes in and the hybrid closes the door.
yes.
And then the hybrid fucking like puts its claws inside of Call's gunshot hole.
Yeah. And then she's like, Winona like crawls into this little orifice and hide from this. It's like trying to stick his hands down. And then like an assembly line of dudes come back. There's like we never mentioned this. There's a soldier who's been traveling with them the whole time.
Right, yeah.
Played by Tuco from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And he's playing Tuco from Breaking Bad. This one part he's like, whoa, oh shit. It's like the same characterization.
Yeah, right.
But he comes back and the hybrid rips his head off. It likes to rip heads off. Is what we learned
Loves
about
to
this
rip
guy.
heads off.
He's dead. And then they keep like, call, why aren't you answering? And she's like, So it's like, sticking its arms after her.
Yeah.
And then Ripley's like, oh shit. Goes back. She figures out what's happening.
And that's when like she embraces.
Yeah, she basically like hugs her child.
And then she takes, she like cuts her hand on its tooth.
Yeah.
And then she throws her acid blood at the window of the ship.
Causes a little hole. And the hybrid's like,
And then the hybrid gets sucked into the hole, but it can't fit. So you just see this very graphic reverse shot.
Yes.
Looking at the window of its like little pallet of skin that's being ripped through the window.
And like all this like internal, he's like being shriveled up as like his internal organs are all sucked to the window. He lets out a pretty horrifying
well, because it's very
kind of human.
It's kind of human. It's like no. It's like no, please. It's like mama. He almost even screams like mama at some point.
But he's being sucked. And then it's like it gets shrunk down to his head right out the window.
Yeah.
Space goop. Space matter.
Space goop. Yeah.
I do want to quickly correct. Brad Dourif does not get his head ripped off. He gets his head maunched.
That's right.
I wrote this in my notes. Dourif gets maunched in all caps.
Maunched.
Yeah. My little baby hybrid.
Yeah.
But the hybrid gets killed in a crazy way.
Yeah.
And now they're on the ship.
Yeah. And the ship, and then the bigger ship, the science facility, crashes into Earth.
Yes.
Obviously, we can assume all the xenomorphs died.
Yeah.
Right? Which is very safe to say. They all died.
In your version of the movie, theatrical, this is basically where the movie ends, right? They're on the ship.
Well, and then like they're slowly starting to land. And that's when they'd be like, what are you going to do when you get back to Earth? It's like, I don't know. I've never been here before.
Yeah.
It's a new beginning for both of us. And then the movie ends.
My movie goes a little longer.
Okay.
They actually land on Earth in the special edition.
Oh my God.
Their ship puts down and they're in like basically like a burnt out wasteland. There's like wreckage everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're talking out, and Ripley's like, I haven't been here in so long. It's a new experience for me. And Call's like, I've never been here. And they're like, well, we're going to figure it out together. And they turn around. They're in the burnt out remains of Paris. You see the Eiffel Tower collapse. And that's like, that is where the mimes, they come out. And look at this. I'm trapped in the box. It's an invisible box. No, it's not actually what happens. Okay. But they are in Paris because Jean-Pierre Jeunet is French. And he's like, I will put Ripley in Paris.
Wait, so did they crash the ship into Paris?
You guys have heard of Emily in Paris. Now get ready for Ripley in Paris. Or as they want you to pronounce it, Ripley in Paris.
Wait. But like, did that mean that they crashed the ship into Paris?
No, they crashed the ship into Southern Africa or something like that.
I thought you said like the Paris.
They're a
is
little
like
ship land.
I thought you said like the ship was like a burnt waste. Like the Paris was a burnt wasteland, but it wasn't.
No, France is a burnt wasteland.
It is?
Yes.
In this movie?
Yes. But like for reasons unconnected to the ship crashing into it. Earth just looks like this. And then this plays over the end credits.
That's not true
this
at all.
Plays over the end credits.
No, it does not. You're lying. You're lying. I know this is not true. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, thank you.
But no, that's the end of Alien Resurrection.
All right. That is Alien.
How do you feel like Winona, after talking about it, acquits herself in this movie? Like, how do you feel like she comes out of this movie?
I mean, the movie obviously is like a humongous flop and doesn't do anybody any favors.
How do you remove that? How do you feel like she is in this movie?
How do I feel like?
How do you feel
my
about
personal
Winona's
opinions on
performance in this
Winona's
movie?
performance? Dull, boring, not given much to do.
She doesn't get much to do.
Yeah.
I think she's having fun with it. I get the vibe that like I don't think she's bad in the movie.
I don't think she's the problem.
Yeah, but I do think like the movie doesn't do her many favors, and she's not particularly that interesting in this.
Yeah, no, she didn't get a lot to do. And it's just kind of, it's just boring. Like I just didn't really.
Her character's not that interesting.
No.
The movie fails her.
Right.
Which the movie as a whole does basically kind of fail.
Yeah.
It's not a flop. It does essentially make enough to justify like being profitable, but not that much. Only like a very slight profit.
Yeah.
It kind of is like the nail in the coffin for like this saga of the franchise. They're quickly like, okay, we're done with telling the Ripley movies.
Yeah.
Joss Whedon had written a script for Alien 5 already. Sigourney had no interest in doing it. She didn't want to, or she didn't like that script because it was set on Earth, and she didn't want to do a movie set on Earth.
Yeah.
But she said, I would come back if there's an interesting story, but I'm not like that connected to it.
Yeah.
At that point, James Cameron comes in with Ridley Scott, and they're trying to come up with a pitch for Alien 5 because the studio's like, this didn't work. Let's go back to the guys who made it work.
Yeah.
And see what they can come up with. Then Fox greenlights Alien vs. Predator. James Cameron says, I'm not doing another Alien movie if you're doing Alien vs. Predator. It's going to be so embarrassing for this franchise. I'm out.
Yeah.
Ridley kind of says the same. Ridley kind of says the same thing, but in the back of my mind, he's like, I still have an idea for a prequel I want to do. Yeah. And he kind of scutters off with that. James Cameron ended up actually liking Alien vs. Predator. He's like, yeah, it was a lot of fun, but I'm never going to do another one of these. That kind of killed my interest in it.
Wait, James Cameron...
He liked Alien vs. Predator.
He liked it, but...
He's like, but still, I'm not going to do an Alien movie now that you've brought the Predator into this. Like, kind of tainted goods at this point.
Well, they did it with Predator 2 is the thing.
Predator 2 is good.
Yeah,
because there's
the alien skull.
Xenomorph.
Yeah.
Did you watch Prey?
I did. Prey's great.
Did you
fucking love
clock
Prey.
the thing with the gun?
The
gun that she gets at the end of the movie from one of the fur trappers that she shoots the Predator with.
Is that the gun?
It's the gun that Danny Glover gets at the end of Predator 2.
Oh,
it's
shit.
kind of like, it's a
I think
fun
I did
way to
clock
do that.
Yeah. I mean, there's your, not to sidebar into Predator land, but like there's your Predator anthology film series. You just do fucking Predator in different time periods.
Yeah.
In different, like...
Yeah, that's how you do it.
How many people have said like there needs to be a Predator in like feudal Japan?
Yeah, people want to see feudal Japan Predator.
Yeah.
Put the Predator in the Ice Age.
Put the Predator in the Ice
Put him in
Age.
the Roman Empire.
Put him in like fucking like the Viking barbarian, like,
which is also seemingly what they're kind of going to do with Alien now. Not in the same sense. No, I don't. I shouldn't say it like that. But just like they are going back to like Alien Romulus, which looks good.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like the Alien on a ship movie. It looks like a scary alien movie.
But don't you think, like, I'm sorry to say this, but like xenomorphs belong on ships.
Yeah, they do belong on ships.
They don't belong on like a planet.
I would be interested with like a fun pitch of a xenomorph on a planet, but I like them on ships. I mean, LV-426, they were all on. In Aliens, it's all like in an industrial base.
Yeah, they're all in a base.
Yeah, they're all trapped in a place with the aliens.
Yeah, it's all still narrow metal corridors and air ducts and basements and stuff. Like, so it's basically a space station. But like,
I'm a little worried
with aliens.
I kind of want to watch that fucking movie.
But I hear you
Aliens
say that.
in the desert.
Aliens in the desert, like that. I can't see that working.
I would be interested in a pitch, but I don't know if it would work. My biggest concern is like this franchise had very lofty goals at points. Mm-hmm. And as much as I'm sure Romulus will be good and I'll like the Noah Hawley Alien show, I am nervous that's like going to lose that kind of loftiness and just kind of go back to like, here's just a scary movie, an alien on a ship.
Yeah.
Which is basically what Resurrection is.
Yeah.
But no, ultimately like this movie is just doesn't really do much for this franchise.
No.
And for Winona, it's coming out after The Crucible is kind of a big hit to her reputation. She's not her reputation personally, but as like an actor.
I was gonna say like this is now 2 back-to-back.
Yeah, this is another one where it's like, all right, she said she doesn't want to play like the cute girl anymore. Mm-hmm. She wants to be in like serious, intense stuff. But The Crucible is a flop, and now the Alien movie that she's in, not very good. She's kind of punted back to square one of figuring out, well, what's the next move for me? She's put in this box.
Well, and then once we get to Girl Interrupted and Autumn in New York.
Because Girl Interrupted, which we talk about in a few weeks, is kind of her big comeback attempt in the same vein as these two movies. And it would have been successful, but we'll talk about why. I don't want to get into it too much with Girl Interrupted.
But that's like the nail in the coffin for her.
Yeah, as like a leading lady in this capacity.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks, but in some way she made a big gamble. It's like, I'm going to change my perception in movies, and it didn't work out.
Which is hard to blame her for.
Yeah, she tried to do something.
She's made a lot of smart decisions in her career, and you can't blame her for like a little misstep.
Yeah, and like these on paper, these seemed like smart decisions. The Crucible seemed like an obvious decision. This seemed like, an alien movie with Sigourney Weaver. Where could I go wrong?
Right.
These are great career choices, and the movies just didn't pan out for her.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
It does.
Because she's going to start slowly like getting relegated to supporting roles, or love interests, or leading roles in small movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is where we're quickly heading with her.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yeah. Well, and as she's sort of slowly depreciating her status as a celebrity, we'll be back next week with Celebrity.
Yeah, next week we'll be talking about. Do you have anything else to say about Alien Resurrection?
I don't.
I think we kind of said it all.
Somebody who I love the Alien franchise. I mean, there's 2 masterpieces of movies. There's 2 prequels that are pretty good.
Can I hit you with something?
And
there's 4 masterpieces, 1 really good movie, and 1 okay movie.
Alien 3 is okay. Alien 4 is bad. And then Alien and Aliens are like perfect movies. Prometheus and Alien Covenant are pretty good movies. Can I say something? I like Alien Covenant more than Prometheus.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fight.
I think it's actually a better movie.
I love all these movies.
I don't think you can watch Alien Covenant without watching Prometheus. It's a direct sequel, but like
I love
Alien Covenant.
I love the alien. I love his slender beak. I think he's great.
Out of like,
he's a good guy. Sometimes he pushes the boundaries a little too far, but that's what comedians do.
Yeah, and like I've always been into like Aliens and Predator franchise. When I was like a kid, me and my cousin, we always talked about Aliens, and AVP came out when we were kids, and we flocked to that movie. But even like now, I always say like, Aliens always had the edge for the franchise for me as opposed to Predator. But only because like I feel like Predator had like the first movie was a really good idea.
Yeah.
And then ever since they've not like lived up to that same good idea until Prey.
The first Predator is great. I watched it recently. I watched the Predators all recently.
Yeah.
The first Predator's great. The second Predator I like a lot. I like sweaty Danny Glover fighting a Predator in Los Angeles.
Okay. That's
Predators is like fine.
Is like okay.
It's not that great.
Yeah.
The Predator is a pitch I really like, but the movie's not good.
Yeah. Right.
And then Prey, very good.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say.
Incredible.
Yeah. Thank you, folks.
Yeah. Well, thank you
joining
guys
us.
for listening to this episode on Alien Resurrection.
This day
next
of resurrection.
We'll be talking at great length, I'm sure, about Woody Allen's Celebrity. Can't wait for that one. It's going to be a real barn burner of an episode, I'm sure. It'll definitely be over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. As a reminder, we're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Pop into our Reddit, r/Travolting. Find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks as always to Rebecca for our graphic design, Michael Van Bodegum Smith for our theme music. Have a great week, folks. We'll see you next time for Celebrity.